Hello and welcome to the Niagara Regional Virtual Youth Forum. My name is Vanessa and this is Saloni. We will be your hosts for the next few hours and we are so excited to have you all here today.
Hi, it's Saloni here. This event is being held by the Niagara Falls Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. We recognize that reaching out to students to understand their concerns is now more important than ever during these unprecedented times, especially for those making decisions affecting youth. So be prepared to discuss and be inspired and explore new ideas. And I gotta say, it's amazing to see so many students from across the Niagara region come together despite the crazy circumstances.
And we are so thankful to be able to host this event. We'd like to take a second to thank the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, the Youth Voice Subcommittee, and both the DSBN and NCDSB for all their efforts in making this event possible. We have an extremely fun event planned for you, and we are going to start it off with a video from our very own mayor.
Hi, this is Jim Diodati, the mayor of Niagara Falls, coming to you from City Hall. I'd like to start by congratulating all the Niagara Falls Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee members for pulling off this great forum here today. It's a great chance to have a platform for all the youth to create the city that they want to live in. So when you go off to school or you go off to do whatever it is in life that you're going to do, when you come home, because you will come home eventually, you want it to be exactly the way you want it. So let's line it up right now, grab the reins, and help us steer this ship. Congratulations, have a great day, and make the most of it.
That was great, and it sets us up perfectly for the next few hours. Before we start, we have a few quick guidelines to help keep the forum running smoothly. Although your mics and cameras are turned off, feel free to use the chat box at any time with comments or questions.
There are MYAC members in the chat and the Q&A ready to compile your questions to be asked after your panelist presentations. Please participate and engage with our panelists. They are here to answer your questions.
Each session topic covered today, education, professional development, volunteering, and health, will include a brief presentation and then an open discussion. During the presentation, ask any comments or questions that you have in the chat and the Q&A, and they'll be answered by panelists after the presentation or during the open discussion.
Near the end of today's event, we will be bringing back all of our panelists from the day to screen, and you'll be able to ask any additional questions you may have, provide comments, or bring up new ideas through the chat box or Q&A. This is a great opportunity to provide direct, actionable input to the region.
And volunteer hours. This event has been accepted by both school boards for volunteer hours. But since your attendance and level of engagement with the webinar will be recorded, please be sure to participate and contribute to get those hours.
If you haven't already
Oh, Vanessa, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. If you haven't already noticed, there is a set schedule. We are going to try our best to stick to it. So if your questions is not answered right away, it can be brought up again at the open discussion session. We also have all of our panelists' contact information if you would like to get in touch with them even after the webinar.
We ask that during the forum, you're engaged in participating in discussion. This is a great opportunity to have your voice heard at a regional level. We will be having quick 5-minute breaks between each topic for you to go to the washroom or grab a snack, but we ask that you're back for the next topic on time. And with that being said, let's start off with a short icebreaker. Head over to the Zoom chat and tell us your name, school, and one fun fact about you.
And as everyone is typing in the chat for the icebreaker, can you also let us know if you can hear us? It sounds like you can, with that you're engaging with the icebreaker.
Looks like we have a lot of different schools and people. This is really great.
Wow, looks like we have a pretty diverse crowd here today. You will also be receiving a survey at the end of the event. It would be greatly appreciated if you could fill out this evaluation. It will pop up in the browser when the webinar ends.
We have a great event planned ahead of us, so let's get started.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I good? I think so.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Farsa, and I'm super excited to kick off the forum with the education session. Over this session, we'll touch on online learning during high school, education beyond high school and applying to universities, and also any further topics where our conversation may take us. We're super excited to have the NPSN and student trustees to help lead this conversation with us today. And throughout the presentation, just make sure to drop any comments, questions, or thoughts in the Q&A or chat box, and we'll make sure to address them near the end. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our trustees. They work closely with representatives from all of our schools and identify student concerns to then voice these concerns to the school boards. And today we are joined by Karina from the DSBN and Sydney from the NCDSB. And I'll hand it over to Karina for a quick introduction.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Karina Tavernesi, and I'm a grade 12 student from Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School. I'm currently in my second term as student trustee for the District School Board of Niagara. And if you guys are a bit unfamiliar with what a student trustee does, basically what we do, we are elected by the Student Trustee Senate, and we act as liaisons between the board and the students. I'm extremely excited to be here and have this opportunity to speak to you all. So yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Yaw. I'm currently a grade 11 student at St. Paul, and I'm in my first term as the student trustee for the Niagara Catholic District School Board. As Karina had stated, a student trustee is the connection for the students to the board and co-chairs of the Student Senate. I'm very excited to be here as well, and thank you for having me.
So we wanted to start this off with just giving a bit of explanation about how our learning models work for each board, because we know that we have both NCDSB students and DSBN students in the crowd today. So just to start us off, DSBN is actually one of 24 boards in Ontario who chose to return to school this year with an adaptive model, which means we have both online and in-school learning. Basically, students are separated into 4 cohorts, A, B, C, and O. And students in A and B go in school and are online, and they go in school on alternating days. Students who are in cohort O learn exclusively online, and students who are in cohort C go into school every day, and they are in specialized programs such as SSTC or RISE programs. So basically the schedule is condensed into 3 periods per day where students are in the same classroom just to minimize contact with each other. And then courses are separated into mini blocks for 2 courses over a 2-week time span. So basically this means that I'm focusing on my periods 1 and 2 classes for 2 weeks, and then my periods 3 and 4 for 2 weeks. So right now, I just want to ask a question kind of targeted at DSBN students. NCDSB students will have a chance to answer the same questions in a few minutes. But right now we're just going to put up a poll, and I just want to ask DSBN students, how do you guys feel about this learning model? Are you guys enjoying it so far? And even type in the chat maybe explanations about how you're feeling about it. And I'd love to read those over later. All right, perfect. I'll just hand it over to Sydney to explain that while we're looking over those results as well.
Okay, awesome. So while you guys are voting on that poll, I'm going to break down the Niagara Catholic learning model. So we're also one of the 24 school boards returning to the hybrid model. All students who choose to be in person are split into the cohorts of A and B, where they will learn in person during the designated days and then online for the remaining days. While students who choose to attend online only, they will attend a separate online school and have everything completely virtual. Students in person will follow the same social distancing and COVID-friendly rules that Karina had stated, with the social distance desks, mandatory masks, and smaller class sizes as well. Platforms like the D2L, Brightspace, and Google Classroom, alongside the NCVLE, are also used while students are on their online days. But much differently than the DSBN, we are working in an octomester format, focusing on one class only for 22 days straight, followed by an assessment or examination. Then the student would move on to their next class for the following term. So we are going to put up the second poll, this one directed at NCDSB students. So it's the exact same question, just wondering feedback on how you're feeling about the new learning model. Once again, like Karina stated, any other comments you would like to put into the chat box, or you can give us an email and a date, and we would love to read them over as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Those are some really interesting feedbacks. It looks like almost it's kind of split. So another thing that we wanted to touch on was some benefits and challenges we've noticed while our different learning styles this year. So I'm actually enrolled in full-time learning. So like I mentioned, I'm in cohort O. So something that I really enjoy about our design at DSBN is the fact that I'm only working on two courses out of my 4 classes this year, which is really nice because that downtime kind of allows me to move at my own pace and really grasp some of the concepts that I wasn't understanding before. Another great thing about it is that students who do feel ready to take that next step and get a little bit ahead have that opportunity as well, because I know some of my teachers do post lessons and assignments in advance. So I also can see from this that maybe students can feel a bit overwhelmed at times because of this, because I know like some of my teachers will post their entire week's worth of work on Monday, and it can cause a lot of students to feel overwhelmed, like they have to complete all of this stuff at once. I know like sometimes I'm really guilty of that as well. So again, we're gonna put up another poll, and I just want to hear, do you guys feel really overwhelmed this year, maybe compared to your school years in the past, or even just in general? And again, type in the chat just maybe some explanations about how you're feeling about that. I also wanted to touch on a challenge that I've had to deal with a lot, I find this year, is while working online, there's a really big disconnect between teachers and students. That kind of just happens naturally, right? Because you're not seeing them face to face, and that makes it really, really difficult. I know that in past years, I'm the type of person who really uses class time to ask questions and raise concerns about assignments and projects, and not having the ability to do that has really been a difficult thing to get used to. I think another thing that kind of happens when you're online is that disconnect that happens between your peers and yourself, just because not being able to introduce yourself to them, especially in younger grades, or even just go up to people and ask them, oh, hey, how did you get this answer? Or what did you do for this assignment? Has been a really, really tricky thing. So again, in the chat, just talk about like anything that you've enjoyed this school year, anything that you've had difficulty with. I'd really love to hear it. I'll pass it over to Sydney now.
Okay, awesome. So unlike Karina, I am in school through the hybrid model. So I do attend physically 2 to 3 times a week, and then the alternate days I am doing online learning. I found the main benefit of that one is pretty much how she had her challenge. It's my benefit, is that I have the opportunity to learn with the teacher present in a safe way. So as I'm feeling safe at school every day, I also get the opportunity to connect with my peers and connect with my teachers physically at school. So I get to ask questions. I'm able to really engage a little bit more it's different online, because I have the online days where I have a little bit more trouble connecting with my teacher, because I don't always want to turn my mic on to ask a question, or I feel like I'm interrupting. I just feel like the days that I'm in person definitely helped me a lot. So a challenge that I found then with that is that the schedule sometimes can be different to understand, because the alternating Wednesdays, or the differences when it changes up in between your 22-day periods. And just the moving between the online and in-person sometimes can cause a little bit of disconnect. I've also found that test days tend to be very close to each other, which gets a little bit frantic and stressful for a lot of students. So that definitely is the main challenge that I have found while learning in this new model. Once again, we did want to put up another poll just to get your guys' feedback. And we also have the chat and the Q&A open as well for any time if you need it. And our emails will be shown in a couple slides. This poll is just asking, are you finding that your teachers and school staff are easily available? Whether you're an online student or you're in person and online, we just want to know if you're finding that there's a little bit of a disconnect or if you're finding it's connecting normally. So I'm going to pass that on to Karina to move on to the next slide.
Perfect. We also wanted to maybe discuss some tools that not everyone might be aware of, because I know some students don't actually know about Direct Connect, which is a really, really big tool that I think DSBN has been promoting this year quite a bit. And it's really, really cool. Basically, it connects students with teachers from across the DSBN in all subject areas if they're having trouble and maybe their teacher isn't accessible for whatever reason, maybe they're teaching or whatever or anything like that. So it's a really good tool to have on hand. It's actually available Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And all you have to do to access it is go to D2L, open up your synchronous support tab, and then select whatever area you're having trouble with. We also want to put up another poll for this because I just want to hear, have any of you guys actually used this tool? I'm interested to see because I have heard, yeah, see, I'm seeing the poll right now. A lot of you haven't used it. So I want to hear in the chat, maybe like why you guys haven't used it. And if you have used it, what you've liked about it, what you didn't like about it, or maybe why you haven't used it, stuff like that. I'd really, really love to hear about that, how we can make that tool even better for everyone. Another thing that I wanted to mention that I kind of mentioned in my introduction is the Student Trustee Senate. So the Student Trustee Senate is comprised of a bunch of different students across the DSBN who are committed to promoting student well-being. We run a bunch of different initiatives throughout the school year to help with student need and stuff like that. For example, we're trying to run some fundraisers right now with EFN, and that's really super exciting stuff. But if you guys ever have any DSBN related questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to myself or my co-hosts Saloni and Keely, and we'd be happy to answer any questions like pertaining to anything. So feel free. Yeah, that's basically it. That contact information will also be in a few slides, so look out for that when that slide comes up.
Okay. So I'm going to be speaking a bit about the Niagara Catholic tools, just like how Karina talked about the ones at the DSBN. The main ones that I found is the platforms such as the D2L Brightspace and the NCVLE for the students to offer online resources and information for hybrid students during their online days and for the online students during the entirety of their course. The second, and I think very important tool that Niagara Catholic has alongside the DSBN is the Student Senate. So the Niagara Catholic Student Senate is a great resource if you have any questions. The Senate is composed of 2 representatives from all 8 Niagara Catholic high schools, plus community representatives, and we also have elementary school representatives on it as well. The students are all passionate about student voice and involvement, and we work together to voice the students of Niagara Catholic and to just participate in initiatives. For example, Niagara Catholic Senate is just finalized our upcoming fundraiser selling iron-on mask stickers to high school students to rep your school and to raise money for charities of each high school's choice. So once again, don't feel shy to don't hesitate to reach out to any of us via the Instagram, or you can even reach out to your representative, your Senate representative at your school. And the final, and I would probably say the most important tool that anyone would offer is the mental health support. We recognize that mental health is very important, and as we're going through such a difficult year, we might need more supports than typically needed. The first resource I want to talk about is the mental health lead at Niagara Catholic, the wonderful Miss Boza. So I have her contact information on this slide as well. And the second resource being Pathstone's Mental Health. Pathstones is always available for anybody at any time if you need it. The contact information being listed there below as well. And you can also go to their website to find anything you need. So we're just going to add a little bit of a poll. Once again, everything here is anonymous. So we just wanted to see if how the new way of learning has impacted your mental health. You can answer positively, negatively, or there's been no change, just to see if how this has been working for our students and to get a really new perspective. Once again, anything you can add in the comments, reach out to the Instagram at Niagara Catholic Senate, or email to me, anything you need, plus using our resources as well.
All right, perfect. So that's pretty much it from us as for like information wise. But I've just listed all of the DSBN student trustees emails there and our Instagram at DSBN Student Senate. Feel free to give that a follow. We post a bunch of updates and stuff like that about our meetings, what we're planning on doing this year and our goals and stuff like that. That QR code, if you scan it with your phone camera, it'll lead you to there as well. So yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, same with us. I listed the contact information for myself and my co-student trustee, Luca. And then also the Instagram QR code, like the DSBN one as well, and our Instagram at Niagara Catholic Senate. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us at any time. We're always here to help. So thank you guys. We're answering some of the questions. I've seen quite a bit of things typed in the chat box, which is exciting. So I'm not sure how we're doing. Just going over the chat box, there's quite a few. I'm not sure if there's a specific question we should answer first or.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get over there.
I know a question that I saw come up a bunch of times was people were just wondering how they can stay motivated and focused when they're doing online learning. That seems to be a common concern among students.
Yeah, I definitely know it's quite difficult to stay focused all the time. I mean, I know especially I tend to stay focused a lot more when I'm physically inside the classroom. But I've just found the best thing that works for me is taking breaks every once in a while. Obviously not super long breaks where I'm going to go sit on TikTok for 3 hours, but once in a while, the breaks in between our lessons and just lunchtime breaks to go get a snack, go for a walk. I found even just going to get a fresh air outside has been super helpful in letting me get back in focus. Karina, how about you?
Yeah, I would definitely say the same. Breaks are super, super helpful, especially if I'm getting like frustrated or something with something in like advanced functions. I need a break sometimes. But I think something that works really well for me, I'm a really visual learner, so I enjoy making to-do lists. And I have one main to-do list, but what I like to make sure that I do is I don't put really broad statements on my to-do list. Like I don't put finish essay. Putting an entire assignment there is really, really hard on myself, I find, because I feel like if I don't finish it that day, then I didn't do enough and I wasn't really productive. Make sure that when you're making to-do lists, you make it so that they're like really achievable goals and that you can see that you're being productive throughout the day. For example, like put finish introduction to your essay. You know what I mean? Like it makes it a lot easier and it spreads it out throughout the day.
I agree with you. Did we want to answer? Do we have any more questions we want to answer? Do we want to just go through the chat and answer some? What do you think, Rena?
Another question we have received from the attendees is wondering if you could explain the fundraiser a little bit more, if that's possible.
Were you talking about the Niagara Catholic fundraiser?
The Niagara Catholic fundraiser,
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I can definitely explain that more. We have been working as a Senate since I believe August in designing an iron-on mask sticker. So we're selling the sticker, not the mask, and it just irons onto any of the masks you like, and it just reps your it'll rep your school pretty much, and then it just say like your school logo conquers COVID. And we also have one for the school board. So if anybody just wanted to, wear one who goes to elementary school or anything like that. They're all to raise money for a select charity of each high school's choice. So I know personally, I go to St. Paul, and we had decided that all the proceeds would be going towards the Niagara Women's Shelter. That was just the charity that we had decided on. All the schools will be deciding on a separate charity. So yeah, we're just selling mask stickers. They are going to be priced at, I believe, around $2 to $3. I'm not quite sure, but they should be in sometime soon, and then they will be released to your school, and then we will be promoting it quite a bit. So definitely follow the Niagara Catholic Senate Instagram. We will be showing that off quite a bit and get in contact with your senators for your high school for sure, and they will have lots of information when this is carried out very soon. And it's just for, it's just for Niagara Catholic. I just saw that someone typed right now, is just for Catholic or DSBN. This is a Niagara Catholic initiative. So yeah, this is something brought on by the Niagara Catholic Senate for only Niagara Catholic schools.
Another question was, how can I get help on assignments through online learning?
Oh yeah, I can sort of speak to that really quickly. Just something that I mentioned earlier, Direct Connect is a really great way if you're having trouble connecting with your teacher for whatever reason. I know, like, personally, I've been able to usually get answers from my teacher like within the hour, but it can get difficult because they are teaching at the same time that sometimes you need help. So feel free to use Direct Connect. And I think that would probably be like the best way through DSBN to do it. Niagara Catholic, I'm not sure. Go ahead, Sydney.
So I'm finding that the easiest way to get help with my teachers, since I am on in person, I do just usually ask them, or I will reach out through a simple email. We also do have the Google Classrooms. We use the NCVLE a lot to get in alongside. We do live Google Meets. So that's just personally what I've definitely experienced. And I think that that's been very helpful as well. And my teachers have been very helpful in returning emails and getting in contact with us all. So that's definitely been.
Someone's asking how you can purchase the mask stickers for the Niagara Catholic fundraiser.
Yeah, awesome. So you'll be able to purchase them through School Cash online. Once they all have came in and like arrived, they're still in transportation from where we've ordered them from. It'll be up to your students' Senate representatives, and they will be distributing them, and you can order them through School Cash online. It'll be announced to your school, and you'll be aware when it comes, trust me, within the next couple weeks for sure. So I noticed that somebody put in the chat, if you are able to go into my blueprint, there's surveys you can take that will show good ways that'll help you study in a way that'll help you most. I've actually used that tool when kind of planning out like post-secondary things and planning out my courses. I have noticed that as well, that they have a lot of resources on the My Blueprint function. I'm not sure if they have that for DSBN as well, but I know it's through the NCVLE on the Niagara Catholic website, and all Niagara Catholic students can reach that for sure. I've definitely noticed that.
I don't think I've heard of that for DSBN, but that sounds like a really interesting tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not seeing too many more questions, but we'll always have a discussion at the end where all the education panelists can come on and address any comments or questions that may come up. Thank you so much, Karina and Sydney. That was a great, great, great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to switch gears a bit toward education beyond high school and post-secondary school. So I'd like to introduce the Niagara Post-Secondary Student Network. NPSN is an organization run by post-secondary students that aims to assist high school students in their path toward university or college studies. With that being said, remember to put any questions, comments, thoughts, anything like that in the Q&A or chat box. And even if you don't get an answer right away, we'll make sure to address those later on. Okay, I'd now like to turn it over to Erica and Lauren.
Thank you for that introduction. We'll just share our screen. Can everyone see that? Yeah, I think so. So hi, everyone. Our names are Lauren and Erica George, and we're so glad to be speaking with you all today about the Niagara Post-Secondary Network. We want to thank MYAC for having us today. We're both former MYAC members, so as alumni, we're especially excited that MYAC's put together this great event for you all.
Before we begin, we wanted to give you a quick background about ourselves. I'm in my third year of university at UOttawa studying political science, and Lauren is in her fourth year at Queen's University studying health studies.
So as a broad overview, the Niagara Post-Secondary Network is a free resource for students interested in pursuing post-secondary studies. In the slides that follow, we'll explain why we established NPSN and how you can make use of the network.
So we began this network because we found that before we began our personal university journeys, we sought guidance from an array of different people. Our family, guidance counselors, students we knew in various post-secondary programs, and pretty much everyone in between. Choosing a post-secondary school and program is a significant decision, and we acknowledge that. So we wanted to make sure that we gathered as much information as possible before we made that decision. When we started our post-secondary studies, the roles were reversed. Now we had friends and family reaching out to us, asking us for guidance about our individual experiences as well.
So when the pandemic began affecting Canada, the number of questions that we were receiving from friends, family, acquaintances grew exponentially. There was a heightened level of uncertainty, yet the institutions themselves had scaled back resources. So students were having difficulty finding answers to their questions. We knew it likely wasn't just our friends and family feeling anxious, and that our personal experiences limited the advice we were able to provide. So along with our younger sister, Vanessa, we thought it would make sense to put together a group from our own network of post-secondary students to try to help students in Niagara.
When we began putting the group together, we prioritized diversity, having a well-rounded team, and that the team members were also strong students. We were extremely grateful for the number of students that were willing to help with this initiative, and I think we had so many students willing to volunteer their time because they also understood how challenging it was for high school students trying to navigate decisions leading up to post-secondary studies.
Our team now has just over 30 students from across Canada, most of whom are originally from Niagara. To give you a sense, we have team members in engineering, in teachers college, nursing, social sciences, medical school, and the list goes on. Some are varsity athletes, some hold major scholarships. Others are in co-op programs or have changed schools or programs. So if you have a question about some facet of post-secondary education, we likely have someone who can help point you in the right direction. And if we don't, we'll work with you to find someone who can help.
So that brings us to how we can help you. If you're in the planning stages of determining a path for post-secondary education, we can assist you with pointing you towards program options and funding opportunities, and pretty much anything else having to do with post-secondary education. We can also connect you with team members who have experience or perspectives that could be useful to your aspirations. For instance, we often have students interested in a few different schools, so we'll put them in touch with post-secondary students from those institutions so they can ask questions about their individual experiences as well. As a general note, we're not seeking to replace the role of guidance counselors at your schools. MPSN is simply supplementing traditional guidance services by offering an opportunity for you to ask questions to current post-secondary students as well.
And then finally, there are a ton of existing resources available, but they can be difficult to find. So we're happy to help you with navigating the many high-quality programs and resources available. For example, you might have a physical disability and be concerned with the accessibility of a campus. We would be happy to help put you in touch with the best person to contact at whatever school you're interested in. So before we hand the floor back to MYAC, we want to leave you with a few tips. And this is advice that we've compiled from our team members that comes up over and over again.
So our first tip is going to be to get involved. Post-secondary studies is so much more than academics. Your experience will be enriched significantly if you're engaged and take part in the student community. For example, I chose to get involved with charity associations and athletic teams, and they have most definitely been the highlight of my university career so far. And it's also where I met so many like-minded students that ended up being some of my best friends.
Our second tip is to take advantage of scholarship and funding opportunities. There are many different ways to fund a post-secondary education. And if you are concerned that post-secondary studies just aren't an option due to your financial circumstances, please reach out. There are many financial aid options available, and we'd be happy to help and share those with you.
Our next tip for going to post-secondary school is that office hours are so valuable. Professors and teaching assistants are there to help you, and they're also paid to do it, and you're paying for that service. So asking questions for clarification on assignments will definitely impact your academic success in a positive way. Whether it's sending a quick email or dropping into office hours, I can promise you that reaching out to your professor is always going to be a good idea.
Next, as I'm sure many of you or most of you have likely experienced, your teachers can tremendously impact how much you enjoy a subject, and the same holds true in post-secondary school. The difference being that in post-secondary school, you often have greater options in terms of the courses that you'll take. So take the time to look into professors before you choose your courses, because the more you enjoy a class, the easier it will be to succeed.
And you can look into your professors through a website called ratemyprof.com, and there'll actually be like reviews from other students. So that's a great way to figure out whether the prof is going to be engaging or not engaging. Another piece of advice is before you choose a school or a program, make sure you talk to students in those programs. We are also happy to help you find students who coincide with your aspirations for that. Students offer a different perspective than the institution websites or those who are paid to recruit students, because they can also give you insight on the specific student experience of individual programs, which is super useful.
Then finally, take advantage of the resources that are offered. So many students get to their post-secondary school and are hesitant to use the programs or resources available to them. You are making your life more difficult if you do that. If your school has a writing center, go get your essay proofread. If you need mental health support, access it. If you are struggling with managing your time, there are people at your school that will be paid to help you with that. Asking for help is not the weak thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do. And that's also what will allow you to optimize your opportunities for success.
So before we close out, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to MYAC and to all of you for listening and showing up today. With that, we're all done talking, and it's your turn to ask any questions that you may have. Or if you're feeling up to it, feel free to reach out to us via email or on social media at Niagara Post-Secondary Network. And you can feel free to ask questions in the chat box now, and I believe Parsa will relay them to us.
Okay, perfect. So I know we have a question where it says, how do you choose between two university programs or just actually universities themselves? Many people might say the campus, the residence, the course choices, but what do you think really matters the most?
I think that's a very individual decision, and there's a lot of different components that should go that should be considered before you make that choice. Certain programs are specialized to offer different experiences. If it's that you're looking for a specific student experience, it would be important to kind of understand what a campus would feel like. I guess not in COVID times, but eventually when we're allowed to be in person, that might matter. So I guess it's prioritizing or making some kind of priority list in terms of what matters to you and what you're looking to get out of a university experience, as well as your end goals. If that may be that you want to be a lawyer or a teacher or a doctor, and trying to determine what steps you should take to get to those goals.
Mm-hmm. And just to piggyback on Lauren, I know that I experienced this when I was choosing my post-secondary education. And I was choosing between 3 universities, and I could see myself at all 3 of them. And so what helped me was actually going to visit the campus. And obviously right now that's not an option. But most schools do have like virtual tours, or they'll have student ambassadors that you're able to talk to. And the University of Ottawa is actually my last pick. And after going to visit the other campuses and talking to students, I quickly realized that that's where I could see myself. And something that's important to remember is that most universities, especially in Ontario, are all super high quality. So I wouldn't necessarily look at the rankings. I would see where you feel most comfortable and where you can see yourself in the future, because at the end of the day, you are going to have to spend quite a few years there. So you want to enjoy your time there. It's not all about academics. It's about the feeling, what kind of clubs they might have, scholarship opportunities, all of that as well.
We have some other questions.
We have received another question from our attendees, and they're wondering, how has post-secondary learning changed with COVID, and what has it affected, and how going into first years has felt for students?
Yeah, so it's probably been quite similar to the experience that you've all had. It's all online, or most courses are online. So I commend you all for all the work you're doing online right now, because I know it's challenging and it's hard to stay engaged. For me, I was on exchange last semester and I had to come home due to the pandemic. So there's a ton of adjustments that have had to be made, but for us, all of our courses are now online. So we have our lectures online, our tutorials online, all assignments. So it's a lot of screen time.
But with that, and I mean, moving forward, that's probably still going to be online, most likely next year as well, at least for the first semester. So some ways to help navigate those challenges, I found like joining Facebook group chats or Instagram group chats of students who are in the same classes, even if you don't know them, just to bounce ideas off of, because especially in university, when your classes have 100 to 200 plus students in them, it's really great to have a buddy that you can chat with, even if you don't meet them face to face. If it's just over DMs, that's also okay, just so you don't feel as isolated. And if you have any questions, you don't necessarily have to go to the prof. You can always just chat with a friend.
There's one from the Q&A. What are some resources for finding scholarships outside of guidance counselors?
Oh, there's a ton of different resources. Actually, I've found that both the board websites offer really great lists on scholarships, so I would take a look at those. And then also I would look into each school that you're interested in applying to, because most schools have major scholarships regardless of the institution. So going to the websites and seeing if there are scholarships that you would meet, for which you'd meet the criteria, that would be a great way to kind of seek some funding opportunities as well.
And always apply to scholarships. No scholarship is too big for you to apply to. I know at the University of Ottawa, what we have is you basically fill out one resume, and then there's a scholarship portal, and you can apply to as many as you'd like, with small tweaks for certain scholarships. So if you meet the qualifications, and even if you don't think your average is high enough, or maybe you don't think that you're good enough for that scholarship, that's not true. Make sure to apply to as many as you possibly can, because that mentality a lot of students have. So there's often not as many applicants as you'd believe, and there's free money sitting there waiting for you. Millions of dollars go unclaimed every year for scholarships. So if you find one and you meet, even if it's only 75% of the criteria, take the time to apply to it. Because when you think about it, if you spend an hour writing an essay and that essay represents $1,000, you just got paid $1,000 to write an essay. So it's definitely worth your time.
Another question people are asking is choosing a post-secondary course final, or is it flexible if you change your mind later on?
So it's super flexible. The statistic actually is 80% of students will either change programs or adjust their program by adding a major or a minor. I know myself, I live in an apartment with 6 people, and 5 out of the 6 have made a program change. The only thing to keep in mind is that making a program change is a little bit more difficult once you're in university. So as long as you're not making huge program changes, like if you're changing from one science to another, that's fairly simple. So as long as you're in the right faculty, it's really, really easy to do.
And I guess I can speak to the other side of that. I was originally going to go down and do a Bachelor of Science, but then I ended up studying Health Studies, which is a Bachelor of Arts. So it's very possible to make that switch, especially if you end up going to a school where first year is general. So Queen's first year is general arts and science, and then you declare your major after first year. So it's in that way, a lot of schools will have some flexibility.
Another question that the attendees have is, how do they access your services? Like, is there a website, or do they email you?
You can either email us, or you can find us on social media. So let me just share that screen again. Most people just Facebook or actually DM is more, but you're welcome to email us. However you're able to get in contact with us is great.
Yeah, feel free to DM us on Instagram, and we also post a lot of the resources generally on our Instagram page as well. So if you scroll through our entire page, you'll be able to see resources that are linked in our posts. And if they're not there, or if you just can't find them, you can also always just reach out to us over DM and we'll get back to you.
Any other questions?
So one question that someone asked actually is, what are the pros and cons of living off campus or on campus?
Again, that's a very individualized decision. A lot of people will stay home first year for sometimes financial reasons, or just that they don't feel ready to move away from home. So many of them will end up staying home to save money. I guess that would be a pro. Pros of living on campus in your first year is that you'll meet a ton of people through your residence buildings, and you're surrounded by students, so it's like a shared experience, I guess. Oftentimes after first year, many students will move off campus. It's less expensive, and most of the time a lot of people will just live on campus first year, but there are also upper year students who decide to stay on campus in their upper years.
We've received another question from the attendees. Is it ever too early to start planning your post-secondary pathway?
No, it's never too early. In fact, I think that a lot of people do it too late. So just even to understand what faculties you might be interested, you have to know that certain programs have specific prerequisites in order to apply. So you never want to get caught in grade 12 in your second semester and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm 1 credit short for a program that I'd really like to get into. And then when you get to university, you have to waste one of your electives catching up to everyone else. So definitely research as soon as you can. I would go onto faculty websites. Most universities will also have YouTube pages or student ambassadors, or you can use NPSN. So just kind of focusing in what your passions are, what's going to make you happy, what you want to study. It's never too early to start that. And a lot of programs, not only there's so many programs to navigate, but they also have specialties. So understanding the difference between biomed versus biopharm, for example, that's going to take some time. So the more that you can look into it, and the earlier you can look into it, the better off you'll be.
And don't stress too much if you don't have your whole plan down yet. I know for me, I didn't end up choosing my school, I think maybe January of my last year, but I wasn't even sure if I was going to stay in Canada. I thought I might go to the US. So don't be too stressed if you're not sure that you want to go to whatever college or university, or that you haven't chosen a program yet. You do have time to make that choice.
This is still kind of the same question. What year would you say you should start looking at your post-secondary pathway?
I would say the sooner the better. I mean, if you're in grade 11 at this point, I guess now would be a good time to start. If you're in grade 9, it's also a good idea just to get a sense of what direction you might go in terms of general aspirations or subjects. I would also start to pay attention to the courses you like and the materials you like, because that will give you a sense in terms of what program may be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and the earlier you know too, you can start to customize your high school experience as well. So if you kind of know that, oh, I'm not going to be going into science, then you don't have to take physics in grade 12, and that could be a good thing. Or maybe you know that you don't want to go into business, so you don't have to take, your grade 12 marketing. So the sooner you don't have to know the specific program, but if you know the field that you want to get into, then your high school experience might be a little bit more specialized and enjoyable if you're studying things that you enjoy, rather than kind of having a broad overview of everything, which is also okay. But the earlier you know, the more specialized you can become in whatever you're passionate about.
Okay, thank you so much, Erica and Lauren. There was definitely a lot of great discussion there. And if you guys have any more questions regarding post-secondary or the NPSN, make sure you check them out on Instagram, Facebook. All their stuff was on there. The Niagara Post-Secondary Student Network. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you guys have any more questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. If you guys have any more questions, we can address them near the end of the forum. Okay. And I'm just going to hand it over to Julia for the professional development segment.
Hello everyone, my name is Julia and I'm so excited to kick off today's professional development session. We're happy to have with us today Kelly Jones from Employment Solutions, along with Sue Cardamone and Farah Glab from JobGym. They're here to lead this conversation and gather youth voice around job searching during a pandemic. Throughout and following their presentation, please feel free to drop your comments, thoughts, and questions in the Zoom chat box or Q&A. We will be sure to bring up all the questions to our panelists during the discussion period at the end of their presentation. Without further ado, please welcome Kelly and Sue.
How's it going? Is Sue here as well?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hi, Sue. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Kelly?
Good, good. You can do your intro first, and then I'd love to go second.
Sure, perfect. Thank you. So I'm Sue Cardamone. I work at the Job Gym office in Welland, and we help unemployed. We offer youth programming and student programming. So anytime you need some help with your job search, resumes, or anything like that, feel free to reach out. And I have my coworker Farah as well.
Hi, everyone.
I'll let her introduce herself. So.
Hi, I'm Farah. I work with youth as well, helping them meet their employment needs, just like Sue at the Job Gym in Welland. So we're both really excited and happy to be here today. Yeah, pass it off to you now, Kelly.
All right, thank you. So yeah, quite similar to Sue and the team at Job and Farah. Is basically, yeah, we're part of the Employment Ontario network. So, you know, both of our offices are located in Welland, and same thing with Employment Solutions, but the YMCA, also Niagara College, and a whole bunch of other service providers across the region. So if you search Employment Ontario and you are looking for some of that career planning, even if you're in high school or youth, you can always feel free to join in and come to one of our offices, and we'd be happy to help. So our services are free, and that's the most important thing. And yeah, so feel free to reach out to Farah, Sue, or myself throughout and after this presentation. So thank you very much for having us.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and share our PowerPoint now. Okay, is that full screen, Sue?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. Okay, so good evening, everybody. It's just about that time now. Today we're going to be talking about job searching and a student how-to guide. So we'll be here afterwards to answer questions and comments and things like that. We'll have a little questions throughout. If you want to plop them in the chat box, that's fine, and we can go through and see them. So we kind of mentioned this already, but we're both from the Job Gym, which is affiliated with the John Howard Society of Niagara. We're here to help you with your job search, and we do provide individually tailored services that would best meet your needs. So that means that you may request something and we would be able to help you out. We have technology for virtual services that are readily accessible to you, and we are located in Welland, Fort Erie, and St. Catharines. Connect with us later today if you have any more questions. This is going to be a safe space, so everyone's opinions and thoughts are valid and free of judgment, so we just ask that you stay mindful of that. And this workshop is provided to help you conduct your job search, okay? So just a little quick chat to start. We'll just look at a couple of answers. How are you currently job searching, and what did you find difficult about finding a job during COVID-19 specifically? Any students have any responses? Sue will take a look at the box. We'll just go through a few if you do.
So they're saying maybe the question and answer box. I'll have to look at that.
One person says use Google.
Okay.
That's a good option.
Some of them are not taking new employees, I found. Some don't have a job. Indeed, I was able to apply to a dozen of jobs and finally found something at the superstore through friends, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Going out in the public, Indeed, online.
Somebody said that they're in grade 9, they've never had a job, they don't know how to apply and where to start. So we will definitely be answering that hopefully today during the workshop. Those are all great answers. Sometimes there's different circumstances we encounter that do change our job search a little bit. So hopefully today we can help you navigate some of that. And we're going to move to the next slide. Oops. So job searching can be a really daunting task for some individuals. It can be difficult to begin the process of job searching if you're unsure where to begin. Today we're going to explore a few different ways to start job searching. Before you start job searching, it's really important to reflect. So do a quick self-reflection, just like you would regarding post-secondary, like our conversation before, you would most definitely do this regarding your job search. So ask yourself, what are your values, skills, interests? Think of methods that are successful for conducting a job search. You would want to think of some online resources. The individual who mentioned Google, that was a great option. Networking, volunteering, and connecting with employers. Organize yourself to accurately record the places you're applying throughout your job search. So the Job Gym does have a job board, and that's a great place to also tap into. There's a lot of different other job boards out there as well that do help with some of the online piece. During a pandemic, so job searching, as a result of COVID-19, job searching has been much, much different. Employers are now using online resources more right now, whether it's online job searching or virtual job fair interview. So when you begin your search, it's really crucial that we keep that in mind. Okay, now we're going to jump right into some different methods of job searching, how to land that job. So looking for help wanted signs at businesses, that's a great idea for job searching. Networking, cold calling, upgrading your skills, volunteering, or visiting us at Job Gym. Can anybody think of one that we've already mentioned that was not listed in this chart so far about job searching? If you want to put that in the chat box, that's okay.
Google and online. Yep.
Great job.
Newspapers for sure.
Good job. So what is networking? Networking is a term that means that you make connections. It's a really, really effective way to get a job. So you want to connect with people in your circle. So thinking of family, friends, volunteer supervisors to keep an eye out for your employment opportunities. Most jobs are filled through word of mouth. Networking helps individuals find opportunities that may or may not be advertised. Networking. So what do you say to somebody you might network with? Well, you may have already done this before in your life, and if you haven't, this is a really great refresher. So you want to start off with introducing yourself. If you're a student, maybe add in what school you're attending, your current situation. So are you looking for a part-time job? Or are you looking for a full-time job? Talk about your volunteer experiences, extracurricular activities, and then what jobs you are looking at applying at. Cold calling. So what is a cold call? So this is another way to find a job. So cold call is when you call an employer who doesn't know that you're going to call them. So it's one of the most effective ways of finding employment, and you can reach an employer before he or she decides to advertise. How to arrange and conduct a cold call. So first, self-assessment. Know who you are, know what your skills are, and what you have to offer the employer. Obviously, you can take a look at your resume to start off with this piece, and maybe just even jot down some points as you start that off. Create your summary, so a good 30-second summary about who you are, and you really want to sell yourself to that employer. And then potential contacts, you want to start developing a list using internet and business directories. And then follow up. So follow up with the action that was taken in the conversation. And for your own 30-second summary, you're going to introduce yourself, drop a name. So if somebody's referred you, say Sue referred me to a job, I would mention Sue's name. Say something nice about the company, tell them about yourself, and then close it off. Here are some quick resources for calling employers for a cold call. So Canada 411, the Niagara CIOC, so the Community Information Database, for your business directory, Niagara Falls Business Directory, and then the Welland Business Directory. And then it's super important to keep a job search record. So make sure you keep a list of the jobs you've applied for. You want to write down the date you applied for the job, the title of the position, the company name, and information, including address, a telephone number, and a contact person. Now I'm going to pass it on over to Sue, who will kind of go through a couple of resources here.
Perfect. Thanks, Farah. So yes, like a job search record, excellent tool to use, right? It can be very simple and easy. You put the job you're applying for, which employer it was, the location, how did you apply? So did you drop off your resume? Did you email it? Did you pass it along to someone to bring there for you? And then following up. You always want to follow up, right? After you send a resume, you want to make sure that the employer has received it. Why do you think a job search record would be a helpful tool for you while you're job searching? And can you see yourself using one? Or has anybody used one in the past?
Just waiting. Anybody want to type in that? If you're applying to multiple jobs, it can help you stay on top of it, for sure.
Absolutely, for sure, to stay organized, right?
Yeah. No, you haven't yet. Somebody said that they can see themselves using it in the future. That's awesome.
For sure.
Good, to keep on track. Those are great answers. Keep track of places you've applied. But I think it's a good way to stay organized. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like Farah said, it keeps you organized, right? And you can see where you've applied to. Perfect.
That was awesome. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide.
Okay, so for applying for a job, so maybe you see a job advertised, right? You're on Indeed, you see something that you might be interested in. What you need to take into consideration when you're looking at that ad is the job responsibility, the hours, right? So if it's full-time, you're in school, you're probably not able to work full-time hours, right? What are the required skills, your education, your experience, and what is the closing deadline to apply and send in a resume? You're going to need all this information for your cover letter, right? So when you're applying, you want to make sure you include those skills, your education, and what your experience is for that employer to know when you're applying. Nope, yeah, there you go. So here are some resources. We also do have a handout, and I'm sure they'll give it to you at the end. We do have a job board through JobGym, right? So there's some listings in there. There's also the Government of Canada Job Bank, and they have jobs there. They have student jobs, and then Indeed, which a lot of people have mentioned for before. You kind of probably want to do a search for which area you can go into, right? Where you can work. You might not, if you live in Niagara Falls, you probably don't want to apply for a job in Welland if you can't get there for your shifts, okay? So just keep in mind of when you're doing that. Research the company website. So a lot of employers nowadays are posting their jobs on their website. It's also, social media. I see on Twitter, a lot of employers posting their jobs. Facebook, right? A lot of people are posting jobs. On the company website, you want to check, they probably usually have a career or job posting section. Great opportunity for you to go look, right? And if they're not advertised, you could look up individuals or companies that maybe you're interested in working. So maybe they don't have a career section on their website and you really want to work at that company. Is, do a cold call like Farah had mentioned, is just calling and saying, hi, I was just wondering, who would I send my resume to for a student position or office work or customer service, whatever it is you're looking for, okay? So company website. So for example, like I had mentioned, right? We're using Walmart here as an example. You'll notice the section about us on the bottom, they have a career section. So that's what you would click on to go look for postings. Once you do that, you'll probably have to hit or type in the location you're looking for, right? Especially for like a Walmart or Zehrs or Sobeys. They all post, right? So Shoppers Drug Mart, you'll want to check the location again of where you can work, right? Because you don't want to be stuck applying to an area where, like I said, you can't get to, okay? And make sure you check if it's part-time, because if you're in school, you know what? You're probably in high school, you're still doing full-time, so, okay? And then first impressions make lasting impressions. So again, when you're applying to jobs or you're wanting to go out and you're handing out your resume, right? You want to dress the part, you want to impress them. So always wear clean clothes and professional clothing while job searching and filling out applications. You'll want to make sure your hair is neat, right? Especially if it's a windy day out there and you go to the business and your hair is a disaster and it's blown all over. You want to check that first. You want to limit the sight of piercings and tattoos, right? Until you find out what their policy is on that. Be prepared with extra resumes and a pen and paper, especially a pen, right? You don't want to go fill out an application and say, sorry, do you have a pen for me to use? Smile, be friendly, professional, and courteous, okay? Can you think of any other ways how you can make a good first impression?
have a firm handshake and look them in the eye.
Yeah, I don't know about handshake right now, Fair, but
yeah,
with COVID, be respectful, absolutely. Another thing too, for first impressions, your voicemail.
Yeah.
Your voicemail on your cell phone or house phone, make sure it's a professional voicemail, right? An employer's calling you, again, that's a first impression they're going to get of you. You know, they may be calling you from a blocked number. Are you going to answer that phone call or not, right? Or are you going to answer and say, who's this, right? When it might be an employer. So those are all, you know, first impressions. Confidently, for sure. Being on time and polite, yes, absolutely. Yeah, you could do the fist bump too, for sure.
Great options.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, this slide's not moving. There we go.
Okay, so again, Fair and I are here. We can help you. Any other service providers as well can help you with your job search. Employment Ontario, right? If you look them up on the internet, there's locations in any of our cities that would be able to help you with your job search too. But feel free, I'm sure contact info will be available too for you. And also, just a heads up, there's a First Works Youth Summit. The website is there. I'm sure we can provide it to you after. It is on October 28th and it's free of charge. Great opportunity for youth and students to get involved. You can look at the sessions. You could attend one session, you could attend two. But again, that's available for youth to attend. Okay. Great, thank you. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I didn't look at the question and answer thing while we were facilitating, but feel free to ask away.
We're here to help and answer. So
unless you want Kelly to present now and then we do all the question and answers together, it's totally up to you, but.
Does it matter? I think Julia is our moderator. Does it matter how we do that?
Oh, you're on mute, Julia.
Julia, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. So I've just noticed it says, what kind of jobs can a 15 or a 14? 14 is a bit difficult, we're finding lately. Employers have to have insurance on you. So a lot of them don't hire 14-year-olds yet, depending, you know, on stores. 15 and higher for sure.
So are we gonna do the rest of the questions now, Sue?
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, Farah, and Sue for all the amazing resources and information. There's a question from our attendees that we received in advance. First of all, how can we ensure our safety while still being able to look for jobs and get the proper training for them?
So prior to looking for jobs, there are different health and safety measures you can take. At the Job Gym, I'm sure that other Employment Ontario providers provide it as well. There are health and safety programs that we offer that are virtual. The Ministry of Labour also has a 4-step online program that provides you with a certificate online that you would receive. These are really great ways to get yourself job ready. So if you have not worked before, you know how to stay safe at work. With the pandemic, once you find a job, your employer should be giving you that health and safety job specific training. But the trainings online do help and talk about personal protective equipment and all the ways to keep yourself safe. So I'm not sure, or Kelly, if there's anything you guys would want to add to that, but I think that that's probably the.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the employer should provide you with the training, health and safety training as well, more workplace specific. I saw Stefan had a question about what makes a resume more appealing. You know, volunteering really helps build your resume, right? Extracurricular activities, schooling, volunteering. I can't stress how important that volunteering is to help you build your resume. Maybe you do newspaper deliveries. I don't know if there's still some that have that, babysitting again too. Those all help build your resume.
For sure. Great questions. Okay, I guess Kelly's finished.
Kelly's up now.
Oh.
I think, or is there more questions? Sorry.
Here's one. Is it worth taking an internship? And what are some of the benefits of that over a job?
Like a high school internship or co-op?
Sure, let's go with that.
Okay, yeah. So a co-op in high school would give you the direct skills for that job that you go into the co-op with. I guess the benefit might be a bit different, as the job might be different than your entry level position you may get on the side for part-time. And then you will get those job specific skills, and that's kind of how co-op helps in high school. So your benefits would be getting those job ready skills that may benefit you in the future. I don't know, Sue, do you want to add anything to that about co-op? I think that would mostly be.
Yeah, it would give you the learning, the skills, right? And you might be interested in that type of work, and then you get there and you're working in it and you think this is not something I want to do. So it's giving you an opportunity to try different things to gain those skills and see if that's something you want to do eventually down the road or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much for answering the questions, Sue and Farah. We're just going to be welcoming Kelly for our next session from Employment Solutions, who will be speaking about online networking. And then at the end of the session, we'll be covering up all the questions.
Great.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Sue and Farah. So it's a great combination of both presentations here. I can't seem to get my video on, but I'm not that aesthetically pleasing, so I'll just move on. Throughout, everyone can see the presentation. Sue, you can see it? Thumbs up? All right, perfect. All right, so online networking. So yeah, we've talked about the cold calls already, the networking piece, and really examining how you can get things moving along. And there we go. I am in real life now. Perfect. And so looking at it, there's so many different unique ways that you can look at it. So really being only focused on what job postings are is not a great way to go about it. Really looking at your online network and your hidden job market. So because right now, ultimately going to places, knocking on the door in a COVID-19 environment is not the best case. It's better to do things online, and that works really well for your generation. And because some of the job postings or jobs that you hear about, as you can see from the chart here, that's only 20%. So really focusing in on the jobs or the companies that you want to work with and reaching out and trying to expand that network and really being professional about it. And also, I'm going to talk about how to use your social media and also to use maybe some other forms of social media that you're not used to. So some things to consider, as you can see from the slide here, is online networking no matter what age. So you might be just looking for a part-time job. You can still use online networking. Obviously, it'd be a different experience when you're online with your friends when you're looking for a job. It's going to be different. We'll talk about that later. Publicly advertised jobs are highly competitive. So if, let's just say that recently, when we had a McDonald's open, they got inundated with applications from students because it's advertised, everyone sees it. But if you take some time and try to find that hidden job market, you might improve your chances because not everybody knows about and not everybody's putting the effort into applying for that work. Hidden jobs are filled by referrals. So people you know, people in that network, always looking to expand that network. And already kind of mentioned that Niagara is a pretty competitive youth job environment because of the extra students that come in through Brock and Niagara. This year's a little bit different, but it's still present all the time. And how can you set yourself apart? So the key thing, and as I mentioned before, Indeed is a powerful tool, but you have to remember it's not the end all be all. It can really help you pick and choose certain jobs, but a term that we use here is don't trap yourself in Indeed jail. Don't feel if your job's not out there, it doesn't exist. That's very far from the truth. So think about your network. How can you help connect to employment on social media? So ultimately, let's just say I'm looking out my window right now and I see Freshco there. So how can you use social media for that? So maybe the owner or operator of that Freshco is on LinkedIn. Can you reach out through there? Absolutely. Maybe you want to work in downtown St. Catharines, you want to work at Beechwood Donuts. That would be an ultimate job for you. Maybe reaching out to them through Instagram. Maybe that's an avenue. So we'll look at that in just a bit. And who should you follow in your community and in your businesses? So ultimately looking at what are some of the different businesses that you're really passionate. Don't wait for that posting. That's one of the key things. Look for the company and then start asking if they are going to do some hiring soon. Especially with COVID-19, businesses change very rapidly. And yeah, always asking, who do you want to work for? So your network is all around you. Think about relatives, cousins, neighbors, positive impacts with them, and they can be part of your network, and they can give you those word of mouth or somebody they know connection jobs. So creating on your online network is, you got to ask, what is right now, as we speak, if we're to hop on your Facebook, and there's lots of employers that are doing that now. They're going to hop on your Facebook, they're going to hop on your Instagram and take a look at what you're doing. What is your online first impressions? That's a hard question to ask, even for some adults. I know that Sue and Farah probably work with people that are much older than everybody in this conference that still have pretty questionable content when they're applying for jobs on their social media. So how do you make a solid one? It's about cleaning things up. Look at your username handle, your display photo, review bio, archive the not so great photos. You don't have to totally eliminate them, but you can maybe, change the settings a little bit, review your language choices, and skim through some of your tagged photos. And you can change who can tag you and so on. So we're looking at this profile. It looks like an Instagram profile there, and not some great photos there that, if an employer were to hop on, especially a smaller business, they would maybe consider hiring. So when we look about it, just some small changes, we can see now with the new updated Instagram profile, a much better avenue. And you can also do a very professional Instagram profile, and one just for your friends. You'd have to really look at the settings for that. But if you're going to reach out, like I said, to Beechwood Donuts to maybe get a part-time job there, you might want to use your professional Instagram and maybe send them a direct message and so on. And then once you're done cleaning everything up, Google yourself, because that's what employers might do, and then see what comes up. And I think that's going to be a real important first step to improve your online first impression. So some common social media mistakes is that, bashing former employers or bashing businesses. Maybe you had a bad experience and then all of a sudden you're applying there or what have you. Misrepresentation of yourself or your skills. Constantly being negative. You have to really look on how much you're pouring into your social media. And if it's just, complaint after complaint, and some might be valid, and I'm not taking that away from anyone, but you have to look at what is your online first impression. Oversharing, which is connected to the negativity. And do you have items on social media that could cost you a job? So once again, looking at some of those profile pics of someone vaping and so on. And I know vaping's not against the law, but does it give you that great first impression? So positive uses. So I think we're all pretty familiar with your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, using the direct messages to reach out to say, hey, maybe in a couple months or a couple weeks if you're hiring, I'm this such an age, I'd love to work for your organization. So really having a chance to familiarize with the business and the company's happenings. Now, another social media avenue that is, I would say, less exciting and less fun is LinkedIn. And to go back to my Freshco example, if you're 17, maybe 16, and you want to work at, say, a Freshco in your city, you find out the owner's name and you create a LinkedIn profile and you reach out to them saying, I really want my first job. I'd love to work for Freshco. I'd be a hard worker. It would be fantastic. If you have any openings, let me know. I think they would be really impressed by that, for you taking the extra effort to form this LinkedIn, make it look professional, and then applying. For someone to be 16, 17 to do that, I think that would send an amazing online first impression. It's COVID safe. You're going to be a good use of time, and ultimately it could land you a job. So you have to be ready to show off a little bit on your social media and be ready to sell yourself. I know sometimes, you don't want to come off maybe overconfident, but it's important. Same thing with your resume and your cover letters. You want to exude confidence so that that reader or that employer is engaged in that. So maintenance, as I talked about a few things here, is changing your privacy settings, switch automatic tagging, keep your personal information, protected. Just sweep through some of your followings. Maybe you have a questionable following that is not appropriate. I don't think employers will get that in depth, but if you're going to have that professional Instagram or that professional Facebook or Twitter or especially LinkedIn, you want to make sure that it is just clean as a whistle. And creating a separate account, as I mentioned before, is going to be important. So with Twitter, and you can create different employer lists. You can stay up to date with any happenings, and you can routinely, one second, let me just pull this up, routinely interact with companies and keep your name on top of mind. So maybe you reach out to them 1 month, and maybe in a month and a half, you do a follow-up. Now, Sue and Farah brought up that application tracking sheet, absolutely crucial. And marking that follow-up date is important as well. So if you keep organized, you keep present, I don't mean contacting them every week, but once a month, once every 2 weeks, I think would be a fantastic avenue. So here's some homework that you can get on for tonight, is clean up your social media accounts, review your privacy settings on who can access, follow aspirational employees and individuals. Think about the people in your city. If you live in Port Colborne, St. Catharines, Grimsby, or Niagara Falls, no matter. Really look at who are the small businesses that you would like to be a part of, that you can start reaching out to them. Appropriately interact with companies. That's absolutely crucial. Maybe have another peer, a parent, or a legal guardian kind of look at some of your communication before you press that crucial send. Examine your network. So that's scanning everyone you know, and think about LinkedIn. Not the most exciting social media platform in the world, but definitely a good opportunity to find some professional contacts out there. So I want to thank everybody for being part of this. I want to thank Farah and Sue, of course, from Job Gym. So now I think we'll open it up to more questions.
Okay, thanks for being here, Kelly. One question from the attendees is, how does having a private social media affect that? And would your employers want to see that? Or?
Well, it all depends. Yeah, if you have one that you maybe has some questionable content on it, and you, for whatever reason, want to keep that, which I totally understand for your social circles, I think that having those privacy settings, or maybe a different username that wouldn't be exactly your name, so they couldn't even search it, would probably be my best advice. And yeah, you can change your privacy settings. I don't think that they would take that as, oh, there must be something bad, because a lot of people do that in a variety of age groups, have different privacy settings, either to protect family, loved ones, or their own privacy as well. So I wouldn't overthink that. But if you are going to use it for job searching, you want to make sure that it's presentable and you're giving that first online impression.
Okay, so we have another question. What is the safest method to find job connections and work as a first-year high school student in the middle of a pandemic?
So and you can open up Sue and Farah, because I know they have great contributions to this conversation as well. And ultimately, online is dangerous, right? There's a potential for danger. It's helpful, a lot of the things that I've talked about, but sometimes with Indeed, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And if someone's willing to give you a job before even looking at your resume, before even looking at, or even interviewing or meeting you, and they're asking for social insurance or send money for work boots, anything like that, you have to be very aware. So Indeed, once again, is an absolute great tool, but you have to be careful, right? It's like walking down the street. Lots of great things on the street, but there's also some dangers that you have to be aware of, right? So I think that's important. Now, Sue, Farah, anything to talk about online application safety that you wanted to add?
I always go over the fact, like, just, you've kind of touched on it, Kelly, but making sure you're fully reading through the entirety of the application prior to hitting submit. You've talked about some too good to be true things. Definitely reading through the whole clause, making sure that there aren't tidbits in there that maybe you miss that aren't really something that might not be in a job application, or maybe a job that's offering you quite a bit of money versus what the student minimum wage would be. You definitely want to check that out. That would be my recommendation for safety piece. And definitely, yeah, don't give out your social insurance number prior to taking a job.
Yeah, for sure. The social insurance number, and if they're asking you for money, right?
Yeah.
Some say, you know, pay this and then we'll give you a job. Not so much. Don't do that. Just be mindful. Maybe if you know the business name, ask other people, check, see if it's legit, do some research, and go from there. Give one of us a call. We might be able to give you, or we know, you know, give you a heads up. One of the service providers. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I was just going to mention, yeah, lean on your network, you know, parents, guardians, and stuff like that. Say, you know what, I have a kind of a questionable feeling about this employer that has reached out to me about applying and that kind of stuff. So if you're unsure, just ask, and then of course, yeah, any Employment Ontario office will let you know. And we've worked with thousands of employers just in Niagara alone. A variety of different sizes. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today and answering the questions. For anybody's questions that was not answered, there will be also like an open Q&A portion at the end for us to cover like all the questions that we did not get a chance to cover. Is there any ways you guys can like, give out your contact information like through a slide?
Sure, or I'll post it in the chat, I guess.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Email and our phone number. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes, that's correct. Amazing. So I'm going to be passing over to our next workshop, which is Oishi.
Thanks, Julia. Hi, everyone. I'm Oishi, and I'm really stoked to kick off the volunteering session. Over the next half hour, get ready to discuss topics such as finding opportunities volunteering opportunities during the pandemic and the benefits of volunteering. We're super excited to have Cody Palmer-Almond from In Communities /211 here with us to lead this conversation throughout throughout and following their presentations. Please feel free to drop any comments, thoughts, or questions in the Zoom chat box or Q&A section, and we will be sure to bring them up to our panelists at the end of the discussion, at the end of their presentation. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Cody.
Wonderful, thank you so much, and excited to be here and have a chance to share some information today with all of you on this forum. I want to start by thanking everyone that's put all the hard work into making this possible, and for having me here today. I'm excited to join you. My name is Cody Palmer-Almond. I am the Special Project Coordinator from In Communities, and we have a number of different services that we work with. Myself, I'm lucky enough to be able to participate in a number of those through my role. And I'm going to be touching or focusing mostly on today on volunteerism. And that's certainly a passion of mine. I had the opportunity to work at multiple different levels of volunteerism in the nonprofit sector over the past 10 years or so. So I'm excited to share some of my experiences through that time, and also through certainly the 2020 world, which has been unlike any other that I've certainly experienced, and I'm sure unlike any other year that many of you have experienced as well. So I will just take a minute here to share my screen so you'll be able to see the presentation as we go along. All right. Wonderful. So I've titled today's presentation Volunteerism and Youth. And the reason that I've done that is because I truly believe that volunteerism is a very personal experience for an individual. And so a lot of what we'll talk about today includes the benefits of volunteerism. We are going to talk about, as I mentioned, some of the unique things that came up as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic this year. And we'll also then cover some ways to get involved, especially through some of our services that we offer at In Communities, and more specifically our Volunteer Connections program and online database of volunteer opportunities. So we'll have a little bit of a chance to walk through that as well. So a little bit about me. I've included this drawing. It actually is a picture of me from about 10 years ago, I want to say, I, in a previous world and here and there since then, I was involved in the education sector myself. And so I do have my teaching degree, and I have had an opportunity to work with students for about the last almost 18 years now through a number of different tutoring services I provide. But one of my tutoring students drew this picture of me, and I thought it was kind of fun to look back on every now and then, because it reminds me of how sort of fun and I don't know, maybe even carefree. I look at it as like a carefree version of myself that that students have. And so all of you on the call today, I think, are in that portion of your life, which is really exciting. You are at a point where there are so many opportunities in front of you and available to you. And I really want you to take all the information that you've learned today and use that to grow and build those experiences, because they will definitely enrich your lives. I know for myself, I've been a beneficiary of all of my my own experiences that I've had a chance to be a part of, both in the education world and in the nonprofit world. Much of that time with the organization I'm with now, called In Communities. So I will talk a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and a little bit more about some of our programs that we offer. So In Communities is a nonprofit organization. It has been around for over 45 years now. And it's an organization that previously was known as Information Niagara. So those of you that may have heard of Information Niagara may be familiar with it by that name, but it has been known as In Communities for approximately 5 years now. Our vision is that all people are supported and connected in communities that are thriving. So it's not just about connecting people, but it's about making sure that the community is thriving. And that's a key word that's in that vision. And you'll see that it's also reflected in our mission statement, which is that we want to strengthen communities by bringing people and services together. I want to take a couple of seconds to talk a little bit about the programs that we offer. And I think you'll see, as I describe those 4 programs to you, the reason why we really feel that that mission makes a lot of sense for what we aim to do. The first program that we offer is one of our largest program offerings, and that is the 211 Central South Ontario phone service. For those of you that aren't familiar with 211, it is a free phone line, 3-digit phone line, much the same as 411 or 911, but it is specifically for community information, health-related information and service connectivity. So we have accredited information and referral specialists that are on the other end of the line to answer the phone calls that come into that line from not just in Central South Ontario, which is our service area at In Communities, but all across the province. And actually recently some growth that's happening across the country as well. So we're really excited about some of the growth that continues to take place in that program. It is a great resource for people to reach out to find out information that they maybe are looking for in that community or nonprofit government services type of realm. The piece that goes almost hand in hand with that, and actually it was great that I heard it mentioned in one of the previous presentations around our community information database. And so this is the Niagara CEOC that was mentioned previously about even finding opportunities to reach out to potential employers. That database has a number of organizations represented in it, along with a lot of their programs and services that they offer. So it's a great resource. It's a great piece of information. It is very much the same information that our phone providers are using to answer questions that they receive through the phone lines. So it is something that's available on the web as well, 24/7, 365, much the same as the phone lines are. The third program that we offer In Communities is around language services. And so this is a program that stretches from the Niagara area all the way up to to Hamilton. And this is work with interpreters. And so we have a program called Interpreters Niagara, Niagara Hamilton, which connects individuals that require interpretation services for in-person meetings. Oftentimes they are legal or health-related meetings. It connects them with a qualified interpreter to accompany them in that position. A great program. We also are providing some training in that area as well through our office, and with a lot of new things always on the horizon as well in that area as those services are required more and more. The fourth program is what brings me here today to speak with you, most importantly, and that is around the Volunteer Connections program. Myself, I'm extremely passionate about the Volunteer Connections program. I had an ability to work with a program that was a subsidiary of the Volunteer Connections program, which was called Change the World a number of years ago. It was a provincial youth challenge, which really sought to get youth involved in volunteer opportunities for a specific period of time each spring in their communities. And it was a great initiative that occurred all over the province of Ontario. And we're still seeing the benefits of the increased volunteerism that program created. After I ran that program at the local level, I was fortunate enough to move to the provincial level and be the director of the Ontario Volunteer Centre Network for a number of years, before now having the opportunity to come back to the local level to work with all of In Community's programs. So I'm quite excited today to somewhat get back to my roots and talk about volunteer connections and volunteerism specifically, because I really do, as I mentioned before, I think it's such a personal thing, and I think it's very much at the heart of what we are as individuals, and it tells us a lot. As even they were speaking about in the last presentation, it tells employers a lot as well about the type of people that are coming across their desk or into their places of work. So the Volunteer Connections program has a number of different components that I want to talk about today. I do want to focus on a few things that I tried to tailor to some of the questions that were submitted beforehand. So thank you so much for those of you that did have an opportunity to submit some questions before today's presentations, because it did help me sort of tailor down what I was speaking about. But certainly there'll be time for open questions at the end as well for any of the topics that I don't get a chance to refer to. But the Volunteer Connections program is centered around connecting individuals to volunteer opportunities throughout the Niagara region. When you think about volunteering, you'll see that I'm talking a little bit about here about in-person and virtual volunteering. So this is one of the things that you will notice comes up in a future slide when we're talking a little bit about how volunteering may have shifted in the last 8 months or so, 9 months or so, since COVID has really taken control. When I think about what volunteerism is, I pulled a few definitions here. The first one is from Oxford Languages, and it says the use or involvement of volunteer labor, especially in community services. That sounds similar to sort of a standard definition. Dictionary.com looks at it a little bit differently and talks about it as the policy or practice of volunteering one's time or talents for the charitable, educational, or otherwise worthwhile activities, especially in one's community. So you again will see that idea of community showing up in both of those definitions. I've included a third one here, and that is a give and take between an individual and an organization or cause that creates mutual benefit. That third definition, which I've realized has a typo in it now, comes from me. So that's really the way that I view volunteerism, and that's the lens that I will sort of be speaking through today when I talk about a number of the different items that we're going to go over. I really do see volunteering as a give and take relationship between the volunteer and the organization or the cause that they're involved with. There needs to be a mutual benefit being realized by all parties involved for it to be the most enriching experience for all parties. And it's something to think about when you are selecting volunteer opportunities as well. Always keep that mutual benefit in mind. This slide here includes, so I mentioned that I had a chance to work at the provincial level with the Ontario Volunteer Centre Network. We also have a national level called Volunteer Canada here in our country that really deals specifically with volunteerism 24/7, 365. And they do a lot of work around promoting volunteerism, trying to understand more about the trends in volunteerism, and trying to capture the benefits. And so you'll see here on this wheel deals with the value of volunteering. And you'll notice that it's not just volunteers on this wheel, it's not just organizations on this wheel. Really everyone in the community, and again it goes back to some of those definitions that were pulled from other sources of volunteerism, around it's the entire community that benefits, that is affected, that has input when it comes to volunteerism. So this is something to consider when you are thinking about these items as well, when you're getting involved. Some of the benefits of volunteering, now again, these are just some of the ones that are sort of most seen or most talked about. What I will say is that there are tons of other ones. So what I would invite you to do, take a look at these ones I've included on the screen. If you have any other ones that you've realized yourself or that you can think of, please share those in the chat. I will take a chance as we're going through this to look at any of these. I see someone mentions making others happy. Absolutely. And again, if we think about that mutual benefit conversation from before, it's not just making others happy, but we know that if we make others happy, it also has an impact on ourselves as well and our own happiness. Any other benefits that people have either realized in their own volunteering or can think of? Provide self-fulfillment. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, we have here, especially during COVID, gives people the chance to do something more engaging and feel involved in the community. Absolutely. And definitely it was challenging during COVID, and we're going to talk a little bit about that next, a little bit more in depth. Developing skills, 100%. It's a great way to do that. It provides experiences in different work. I always love to pull on that one as well, because that goes to, again, what the previous presenters were talking about with volunteering as a way of building experience. It's a great way to experience different roles in different organizations and different types of jobs without having 5 part-time jobs to get that same experience. So it's a really great way to build that. Absolutely, it can help the community, help people in need. A sense of belonging is really key. Very good, very good. Lots of great stuff. Love that. Thank you for those contributions. I appreciate that, and it sounds like all of you are definitely understanding that mutual benefit aspect and how you can continue to get yourselves involved as well. All right, so I mentioned that I would touch a little bit about on volunteerism during COVID. So this was definitely an aspect of this year that was quite unique. And it did present completely unprecedented challenges to, I mean, obviously almost every sector across the world, but certainly to the volunteerism sector, because it created a situation where many services and programs and organizations that relied heavily on in-person volunteers were in a situation where they could not access that volunteer pool. What that created was some real challenges, and it created what I like to think of as a tipping point in the sector for organizations to look at themselves and look at their volunteer programs and try to figure out, okay, how can we continue to engage people in a time when we can't necessarily have them in person in our offices? And this is something that we're seeing evolve in real time, like many of the changes that are happening this year, but we are starting to see a lot of it take place. And what you will see here is I've mentioned about the idea about being flexible and being adaptive. This is true about organizations. It's absolutely true about individuals as well. Yourselves as volunteers, it's something that you've had to realize as well. Understanding how you can be a little bit more flexible, how you can be a little bit more adaptive to opportunities that may present themselves in the sort of the new world that we're in during COVID. It's also an opportunity, as I mentioned, to rethink traditional volunteer opportunities, because now we are seeing more and more the introduction of virtual opportunities. And I saw some questions for sure in the pre-submitted ones around this idea of virtual opportunities. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because virtual opportunities are absolutely becoming key to the voluntary sector as a whole. They are oftentimes more flexible than your traditional in-person opportunities. They are not limited by geography or physical ability or work arrangements because they can be that flexible. And they're great for resume building. Traditional volunteering, absolutely in general, is great for resume building. But when we think about a lot of the virtual aspect of not only nonprofit work or volunteer work, but the general workforce as a whole, being comfortable with technology and being able to utilize it in different ways is a great thing to be able to build for your resume. It's also an exposure to new ideas or new people, because a lot of virtual opportunities don't necessarily just take place in your own geographical location. They may be taking place all over the world. And so it's a great way to expose yourself to those new ideas or new people. Some examples of opportunities I've included here, really they are becoming more and more rich in terms of the number of opportunities that are available at organizations that are virtual based. We will talk a little bit about in a second how you can find one opportunity that we're specifically a part of, but also then we'll follow that up with a quick walkthrough of our volunteer database so you can see exactly how to find some of these on both our volunteer database and the provincial volunteer database, Spark Ontario. One of the special projects that I mentioned that we have, a virtual opportunity that we're kind of working towards. That's a special project that we've launched as a partnership with an organization called Cyber Seniors. So they're a nonprofit organization that connects tech-savvy youth to older adult volunteers that are wishing to learn how to use technology. So what's really cool about this is youth are volunteers in this program. Also, through their volunteer work, they're working with older adult volunteers that want to get back into their volunteer roles, but maybe previously had only performed in-person roles and don't have the comfort with the virtual roles that their organization might be introducing as a result of COVID. So it's a great win-win situation for everyone involved. More information about this opportunity will be available on our website, and some of our links will be at the end of the presentation this evening. So you'll be able to visit our website, learn more about this. The contact information for our volunteer program is also going to be on there if you want to reach out and find out more about engaging with something like Cyber Seniors. So ways to get involved in volunteerism in your community, in the region here. The Volunteer Connections database, maybe I'm a little bit biased because it's within our organization, but it's a great repository of a number of both organizations and volunteer opportunities. So at any given time, you can see over 100 volunteer opportunities available, sometimes more, sometimes lots more, depending on the time of year and the different events that are taking place. But it's a great place to really get you started. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of that in a second, so you'll be able to see some of the different functionality that's available. One of the great things that we do have is the ability to create a volunteer profile within that database as a way to establish your interests, your availability, maybe the organizations even that you're interested in volunteering with, and then you will get emails with some of the listings and opportunities that fit your criteria. On sort of a semi-regular basis. So it's not always you having to go in and search for opportunities that are out there, but you'll get some sort of reminders on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis that will say, oh, this organization that you're interested in, or this area of focus that you're interested in has some new opportunities available that you might be wanting to apply to. You also then can click, yes, I want to volunteer, right on the site as a way to engage with that organization. I've also included some other ones. Certainly there's Talk to Friends who are already volunteering. That's a great way to understand what's out there, what's available. You can ask teachers or guidance counselors or neighbors, any trusted adult about what's out there and available in the community in order to get involved. It really does come down to some networking when you're looking to get involved in the community. And I know that there were some questions around the volunteer hours as well, the community service hours. It's one of the best ways to satisfy that requirement as well, is really just talk to people who are involved in the community already, because they will have their finger on the pulse of what's happening. If you don't have those people, or you want to have a wider net cast, then the Volunteer Connections database is where you want to be at. And so it looks like this. I'm just going to pull up what it actually looks like here for you. So this is what the database looks like. You will see here it has the ability to search for a specific keyword, which is great. It gives you the opportunity to search for keywords related to the area that you might be interested in volunteering in, whether it be, you know, with a specific sport, maybe it's with a specific organization. You can also search specifically for a volunteer organization that wants to be that you want to be involved with. There's also some of these great links over here. So things like what's new. So you can click on what's new. You can see some of the organizations that are posting new opportunities in the database on sort of in real time. These are the organizations that have posted new opportunities in the last 2 weeks. You will also have the ability to log in and create that profile. You will also see that youth is specifically under 25, because that's the definition at the provincial level of youth. But you have the ability to then tailor that to a specific age area. So as organizations put their opportunities into the database, they do tailor it based on age. So so that's a really great way to be able to see what's available to you. Not only is it available, but also is it appropriate for the age bracket that you fall into, and also the community that you are found in. I also wanted to show the ability to create that profile. So you'll see here where it says create profile. When you go to create a profile, it's very traditional to signing up for something else. When you go into that profile, then you have the ability to select that date and time information when you're available. You have that ability to select the area of interest you might have, the location where you're located that you'd like to try and keep your volunteering to. All of those things are available. So this is found at niagara.coc.ca/volunteer. It's also linked through our In-Communities website, and all that information will be at the end of the slide. I'll also make sure that I include that link in the chat box at the end of this presentation. So I just have a couple more slides before, actually I think that is the last slide as I'm seeing here now, before I wanted to open up to questions, because I have seen the chat box kind of lighting up with some questions, so I want to make sure I get a chance to talk to those before my time is up. So I'm just going to take a look at the chat box. So thank you so much for Patricia for putting that link there. That is absolutely where you can find us and where you can sign up for your profile. It's a great way, as I mentioned, to get involved. Our website itself, I see that some people are mentioning that Niagara Falls Public Libraries have volunteer opportunities available that are online, that are virtual. It looks like even, so that's great because that's an online tutoring, so that's really awesome. I think that that the virtual aspect is definitely a challenge still. We are starting to see more of them pop up, but it's a challenge because what you have to understand, and I'm sure that many of you understand this and know this, but our organizations are kind of adapting or trying to make changes to their own programs the same as countless other organizations and businesses around the world are. And so there's a little bit of a delay in creating sort of new virtual opportunities or things like that that require a little bit of a change to their plans. So it takes some time for them to develop those virtual opportunities, but there are more out there. One of the other websites that I will mention, and I'll put here, I will put it in the chat box, is a program called Spark Ontario. So that is actually a provincial database. So much like we have the Niagara database, there is a provincial database called Spark Ontario, which also has a whole area focused on virtual opportunities. So the website for that is, I'll just type it in here. .ca, perfect. Oh, awesome. Perfect. Just got it there. But yeah, so it's a it's a great resource as well, because it does allow you to see some of those more virtual opportunities. There are still in-person opportunities happening as well. Absolutely, they are somewhat limited just because of the COVID regulations. If there is something that you've been sort of traditionally involved in as well, from a volunteerism perspective, there is a possibility that that's not happening anymore because of COVID. So you do need to look into that if you have ongoing opportunities as well. So I'm just taking a look in the Q&A as well to see if there's anything that I need to touch on. And I see there an opportunity through photography. So photography is an interesting one, because oftentimes there are organizations that are looking for support with photography. I know that one of the things that actually I have done in the past with an individual, I guess it was actually a student, but she was in post-secondary, not in high school at the time, but she was looking to get involved with some work with photography. And so what I said to her is, well, we're looking for some sort of great images from around the region to beef up our social media, specifically our Instagram, with so we have some backdrops for some of our quotes and things like that we wanted to share around volunteerism. And so it was a great chance for us to highlight her work and feature her photographs in that. And that was all done virtually. So it was an opportunity for her to take some pictures, do some editing on her own, submit those to us, and then we were able to post them to our Instagram as a way of including that work and then crediting her for that. So that was a great way to involve that. I will leave it now for some more question and answers. I know, so I don't want to. I know that there's some hosts that want to ask those.
So another question from the attendees are, how do we, when you are applying for these volunteer opportunities, should you be should you act as if it's applying for a job? Should you be attaching your resume to these volunteer opportunities?
There is that option always available. What I always encourage people to do when they're applying for a volunteer opportunity is you really do want to consider it like applying for a job. Oftentimes volunteer opportunities will actually take on the look and feel, at least through the engagement process, of applying to a job as well. So you may have a volunteer interview. Some organizations actually even do exit interviews with volunteers when they leave an organization. So it does have much of the same look and feel of applying to a job, and it's great practice for that as well.
Another question from the crowd was, how does volunteering in different job opportunities benefit you?
So I love the idea of being able to volunteer with a number of different organizations and helping that to really narrow the scope of what you might want to do with your career. It's very hard to handle 5 part-time jobs, let's say, but throughout your time in high school, you could be involved in 5 or 6 different organizations that are totally different sectors or different areas of focus, but it helps you to understand, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this where I would like to spend my time? Things like that. And it also gains you experience as well in those areas that you are interested in. Myself, I had a chance to do some co-op placements in schools. It led me to understand how much I loved working with students and through education. And so it allowed me to then pursue some volunteer experiences in education as well.
Another question that the crowd had was, do certain volunteer opportunities look better on post-secondary applications?
It really is it really is post-secondary institution and program specific for that one. I would say that when it comes down to it, no volunteer opportunities or no volunteer experience versus volunteer experience, that's going to look better. So no matter who you're volunteering with or what organization you're volunteering with, it's going to look better than having no experience. Tailoring some of your volunteer experiences to your career path or to your school path is always the best way to have that be more impactful on your application though.
Another question we have here is how do we stay safe while doing volunteering in person?
Yeah, so I mentioned this. I noticed this one actually in some of the pre-questions as well around certainly the COVID reality that we're living in, and this is an important one to consider. And so it comes down to you being confident in your own understanding of the regulations and being comfortable and confident enough to say to an organization if they aren't following procedures or aren't following the required things when it comes to COVID regulations, that you aren't comfortable with that situation and that you don't feel comfortable engaging with that organization. That being said, that actually goes for any health and safety issues with an organization when you're engaged in volunteer work with them. It's a very important piece, and it's also a very challenging piece oftentimes for students, because you feel that because you're younger and you're engaging with an organization, it can be intimidating to have that conversation or bring that up. But it's very important for your own health and safety and for your own peace of mind to be able to do that, because you want to make sure that you are engaging in the most successful opportunity you can. And one of the most important parts of that success comes health and safety in your role.
Another question from the crowd is, does in a resume, can volunteer opportunities, does it have the same value as maybe work or like a job opportunity?
So one of the things that actually I've seen a shift happen in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years. Previously, volunteer experience was kind of a little bit of an add-on to a resume oftentimes. Now we're seeing volunteer experience being included sometimes right with work experience and just being identified as being unpaid versus paid experience. It really has become on, I won't say even footing, but it's getting there. And so it definitely is something you want to highlight on your resumes. For many people that are young, it could be some of the only experience that you have. And so you want to make sure that you're highlighting that. And because again, you know, volunteering requires all of the same aspects of working, right? You need to be there on time. You need to be responsible. You need to be considerate of health and safety. You need to be thinking about all of those things. So, all right, I think there's going to be time for questions in the open area at the end. So I will end my part of the presentations there. Thank you all for your questions. And I'll stick around for the open forum near the end.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, Cody. If you have any additional questions, Cody will be here at our open discussion, so feel free to save your questions for the end. And now I will pass it on to Abby for health.
Hello, my name is Abby Critelli, and I'm thrilled to begin the health session. Over the next half hour, get ready to speak about the importance of mental and physical health, especially now during COVID-19, and strategies to contribute to a healthier lifestyle. We are pleased to have REACT from Niagara Region Public Health here to help guide the conversation. They are a youth-led action group that educates the community and advocates for healthy lifestyles. They are a talented, committed, and passionate group of students who raise awareness through workshops, promotion materials, and other engaging activities that all center around having a balanced and healthy lifestyle. Also, again, if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to write them in the chat box or Q&A, and we'll bring them up for discussion after the presentation. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to REACT.
Hi, everyone. My name's Arlene.
I'm Lauren.
And we also have with us Saloni and Bria, who will be joining us shortly. And we also have our youth engagement specialist, Dana, who will be controlling the presentation. So we're from REACT, a youth-led advocacy group based in the Niagara region. In the next couple of slides, we'll be talking a little bit about what REACT is and mental health during COVID. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and we'll try our best to get to all of them. We're super excited to be here with you guys, and we look forward to interacting with you.
Okay, so first off, we have a quick video explaining what React is, and basically it elaborates on what topics we focus on and a little bit more about us as peer leaders.
Hi, here's a quick introduction to React.
React is a youth-led advocacy group based in the Niagara region. Our peer leaders focus on important topics such as sexual health and physical wellness, substance use and vaping, and body positivity and mental well-being.
We promote our message in super cool ways through online social media platforms like Instagram.
We have an absolutely amazing team, and we love to work together in order to spread our message to youth.
Thanks for listening. Get in touch with us through our Instagram page at React Niagara.
Okay, so for our first opening exercise, we're going to be playing a little game called Would You Rather. We're just asking that you guys answer using the polls that pop up on your screen. So for our first question, would you rather be allergic to chocolate or allergic to bread? Lauren, what would you be allergic to?
I think I'd rather be allergic to chocolate because, like, you use bread for so many things. I don't think I could live without it. What about you?
Bread, I love it, but chocolate, like, I don't really eat it that much, so yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just wait for everyone to finish that up. Okay. Wow, a lot of people said chocolate. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, so for the next one, would you rather go viral on TikTok or get perfect grades? I'd say perfect grades for me. What about you, Saloni?
Perfect grades all the way.
Yeah. Let's see what other people say. Perfect grades, yeah. One person said TikTok. Okay. Yeah, 85% for perfect grades. Wow. Okay. Would you rather have a noisy roommate or a nosy roommate? I think for me, it would have to be nosy. I don't think I could handle someone like screaming all the time. Ria, what would you say?
Really? I would say noisy because I think I'd rather have someone who's a little bit louder than who's always snooping through my stuff.
None of the above. I'd choose that too. Noisy. Okay, 64%. Okay, and then finally, would you rather win $1 million today or $10 million in 20 years? Dana, what would you say? If she's there.
Here. I think I'd want it now. I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I could definitely use some extra cash right now.
Okay. A lot of people said 10 million in 20 years. Wow, okay. So that's it for Would You Rather? 10 million?
Okay, so before we get started on our messaging, we want to do a quick exercise just to get to know how you're feeling today. So if you could direct your attention to the image on the slide, this is what we call a blob tree. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different characters displaying a variety of different emotions. So we're gonna, basically in the chat, we want you to say which blob best represents you. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes, maybe not a couple, but just some time right now and to go ahead in the chat and let us know which one represents you. 9, I see 9 there. Oh, 10. 10 is good. Hey, look at that. Someone said a bunch of different ones. Wow. Personally, right now, let's see, what do I feel like? I think I feel like a 10. I feel pretty good right now. We just had some awesome messaging, so got a lot of new information. What about you, Arlene?
I'm feeling like a 20, which is better than a 10. I'm joking.
Wow.
I'm joking.
I see how it is.
I don't know why I feel like a 20. I'm really excited to be here. What about you, Ria?
I'm definitely a 9 right now because I just had a lot of coffee, so I'm swinging off the tree. How about you, Saloni?
Definitely a 9. Yeah, this is exciting.
$11, $8. Okay.
11 and 8. Wow. Yeah, that's great. That was great, guys. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, our main focus for this presentation is mental health during and after COVID. For the next few minutes, we'll be discussing things from what does mental health mean to you, to things you can do to practice mindfulness. Once again, feel free to ask any questions whenever and just drop them down in the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll try to get to them. So I'll give that over to Lauren now.
Okay, so first off, we want to know what mental health means to you. So there's no wrong answers. We would love to hear from you like in the chat, like if you just want to go ahead and put what you feel mental health means to you. Personally, mental health means to me like self-care, different ways I interact with people. Arlene, what does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it's something you can like really achieve by practicing mindfulness, self-love, and just caring for yourself. It's so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Saloni.
Well, Arlene, I think one of the most eye-opening things that I've learned about mental health while working at React is that mental health and mental illness are not the same thing. So let's talk about that. Mental health refers to our well-being socially and emotionally. It can be positive or negative, and it is always there because everyone has mental health, just like we all have health, regardless of whether it's good or bad at a certain time. So on the other hand, mental illness is an illness that affects how we feel, act, and behave on a regular basis. So knowing this, we can kind of talk about this relationship like a continuum. We might find ourselves falling into the top left and have great mental health with a mental illness, but someone else might also experience the opposite, poor mental health without a mental illness, as shown in the bottom right. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Ria to talk about why taking care of our mental health is so important.
All right, so thanks so much for that, Saloni. And exactly as you mentioned, the spectrum between mental health and mental illness is extremely important to understand because it helps us to acknowledge why taking care of our mental health is so critical. For one, mental health influences every facet of our life, with aspects such as our behavior, how we interact with others and ourselves, and the way in which we cope with life's difficulties. Because we know that there can be a lot of them, especially right now where we're going through such trying times of change. Mental health is also extremely important for self-improvement because understanding our mental health can help us to determine how we handle stress, the ways in which we connect with other people, and make choices when we need to. And also, contrary to a lot of popular belief, mental health is correlated with your physical health because the mind and body are connected. And so poor mental health can lead to issues such as stress, leading to a lowered immune system, higher blood sugar, and even a faster heart rate. And so this brings us to inclusivity, which is acknowledging and being aware of our own mental health. And this allows us to do something which is really, really important, and that's to normalize the conversation. Because when we freely talk about our experiences, we can help to end the stigma associated with this discussion.
So now we want to hear from you. We want to know how COVID has affected your mental health on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being a decline in your mental well-being, 5 being neutral, and 10 representing an improvement. So to keep responses anonymous and make this a little fun, we've set up a Google Jamboard, and you can find its link in the chat. I think Arlene just put it down. So when you open the Jamboard, look for a little square which lets you add a sticky note, and then drag it to wherever on the member line you think best represents you, like right at this moment, right? So take your time. We'll give you maybe a minute or two to add a sticky note, and if you have any questions on how it works, feel free to ask away in the chat. Awesome. It looks like we're getting a bunch of responses. This is really interesting to see. Arlene, how do you feel?
Honestly, I think I'm very neutral. I would say I'm like a 5. I'm seeing a lot of like 4.5s, 5s. What about you, Saloni?
I think that's a tough question. Maybe a 6?
6. Lauren, what would you say?
I think I'd probably say the same as Saloni. Just because our workload has decreased a lot, like specifically for me, that's what I found. So I've been able to like better my self-care and have more time for myself. So, Ria, what would you say?
Well, that's a great question. If we move to the next slide, we can actually start discussing how we want to interpret the data we just collected. So for me personally, I think I'm about a 6 too, because things are a little bit hectic, but as the time goes on, we're trying to figure out how to make do. And so now that we're kind of thinking about our personal mental health in relation to this pandemic, let's discuss the different things that we can do to help improve it. So for one, getting active is a great way to boost your mood because regular exercise has the ability to reduce your stress, anxiety, and even improve your sleeping behavior. Taking up a hobby is also a great way to try something new and stimulate some creativity. And also something that is super helpful is reaching out to friends, family, and other support systems. And we know that right now it may be a little bit different and difficult because of the COVID-19 social distancing guidelines, but there are actually a lot of resources that youth can access, and we'll shortly be talking about this at the end of our presentation. Another activity that has personally been helping me a lot throughout this pandemic is practicing meditation, which helps to improve my sleep, reduce my stress, and even anxiety. And lastly, doing something you love is a great way to boost your mood because from listening to music or hanging out with your dog is just a fun way to take care of your mental health.
Yeah, so building off of what Ria was talking about and also bringing in a key topic that React loves to work on, I thought we'd start up a quick little self-love exercise. So I think we can all relate when I say that it's really easy to get caught up in work, school, and just life in general, and forget to give ourselves a pat on the back every once in a while. So I encourage everyone to head down to the Zoom chat and give yourself a compliment. It can be about anything you want, like anything you're proud of yourself for, or just something about you that's really great. These are so nice to read. This is kind of like, it puts a smile on everyone's faces just reading through other people's.
Okay, so while those responses are rolling through, we would love to get in contact with you. And of course, if you have any stories to share about anything we talked about today, we do have an Instagram page and it's at React Niagara. So it'd be really awesome if you headed over there and gave us a follow, because we do try our best to keep our content updated. And we included a QR code that you could quickly scan if that's easier. And of course, if you would rather choose email, we have an email account, which is peerleaders@niagararegion.ca.
And in the bio of our Instagram, you'll find a link to our link tree. You can find a bunch of resources in there, from mental health to youth health services and much more.
So thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to listen to our presentation. And now we have some questions for you. So we'll be directing you to another Jamboard that will have different questions posted on each slide, which you can access if you click the link in the chat box that Arlene just sent. And if you click through the buttons on the top, as Dana is showing right now, you can see the different questions that we have to ask you. And so take your time, read through the responses and through the questions, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about you.
If it's not working for you, you can always just drop your answers to the questions in the chat box too. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of Instagrams. Like we mentioned, we have an Instagram, so go follow it right now. Not a threat, but.
And kind of building on top of that, since we do have so many people suggesting Instagrams and like a lot of things on social media, do you guys have any suggestions on specific things that we could be working on? So do you want to see us do more Instagram posts on a certain topic or something like that? We'd love to hear from you.
So these are some really awesome suggestions that we're getting from everyone, both in the Jamboard and in the chat. So thank you so much for participating. So now we can answer any other questions that MYAC may have for us.
Hi guys. So a couple of questions we had. First off, there was a question about how do you join React?
I can take that one. So React is actually a job. It's like I worked another job. This is such a cool job. So you apply for it in May, June around, and a lot of people do it in grade 10. Like you can start in grade 10. We had one grade 9 last year too. And there's an application process, and then normally we have interviews with that. And it's through the Niagara Region Public Health. And yeah, so our application will probably come out around, Dana, when would you say? Like May?
Usually it's around there. This year was a little bit different because of COVID. We didn't actually post it and do hiring this year. So our current peer leaders are from our previous hire, but fingers crossed that this year we will be able to hire some new peer leaders.
Yeah, so I definitely encourage anyone who's interested, definitely look out for it. It's such a great opportunity. And you get to meet so many new people. You get to go to so many events normally, but so much fun. Yeah.
Awesome. And one other question they had was, what were some events that you guys particularly liked in general?
So events this year were a little bit different, more geared towards online special projects because following COVID restriction guidelines. So this year we have different things going on with our substance pod in relation to a campaign they're doing with sorry, what was the name of it again? Arlene, do you remember?
They're doing it's like a addictions thing, right, Dana? What's it called?
National Addictions Awareness Week. They're doing a trivia event online, virtual. Yeah. So they're part of the person.
And then other than that, we do a lot of Instagram promotion and just social media promotion, which is super fun. So we work on things like TikTok sometimes, we work on IGTV videos, we make Instagram content stories. So it's just a lot of online-based targeting media, and it's super fun, super creative, and you meet a lot of cool people like Arlene said. So it's just
Yeah, and piggybacking off of Ria, we've also been to, like, in a normal year, we would have went to like OSLC. We were supposed to go to GSLC, and we go to Y dances. There's so many places we get to go, and it's super fun. So hopefully if next year is a normal year, you guys, if you apply, you'll get to go to so many new places.
Awesome. And then there's just one last question. Well, there's two. They're kind of on the same content. So someone asked, is there somewhere they can subscribe where they can get notified where the applications are? And as well, is there someone there can get notified when a new member happens?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. So the last question was, is there someone they could subscribe to figure out when they could apply, or is there a place they can find where they get notified to apply?
Yeah, okay. I can take a piece of that question. React does, if you follow our Instagram, we usually do promote a lot of what's going on at the region, what React is up to, in addition to our health campaigning. So if we are holding hirings this year, they would probably be posted definitely on the Niagara Region Public Health website, but also on our Instagram and on our social medias. So stay tuned for that.
A lot of the time we do reach out to guidance counselors of different schools. So if you just get in contact with your guidance counselor, they can tell you too.
And also MYAC reposts a lot of our content too. So if you're following them, they'll probably repost our hiring like whenever it happens.
Awesome. So that looks like those are all the questions we have. Great job, guys. You did a really good job presenting. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thanks so much, React. So now we're going to move on to our general Q&A with all of our panelists from the day. During the session, we ask that you comment and ask everything and anything that you wish to see changed and discussed in the Niagara region, even if it falls outside of what we discussed today. So just go into the chat now and ask anything.
And we have all of our panelists here ready to answer your questions that may pertain to them. So don't be scared to ask anything across any of the sessions.
To get the discussion started, we're just gonna ask, what has been your biggest challenge during COVID-19? Anything from any of the topics discussed this evening or whatever comes to mind, we ask that you drop in the comments right now.
Question I remember from the attendees was about gap years. Any insight on them, and do they have any benefits, especially with COVID happening?
If NPSN wants to jump on and answer, that'd be great.
Yeah. So gap years are more common than you'd think, and then especially right now because of COVID-19, they're becoming increasingly popular. The thing about gap years is that most institutions won't allow a deferral. So if you apply to a university, you're usually presented with the option of either accepting or rejecting your offer of admission. But that doesn't mean that the next year you can't reapply. In certain cases, you are able to defer. For example, if you're part of the military or you're an Olympic athlete, you're able to do so. But otherwise, generally speaking, you either have to accept or reject a letter of admission. Having said that, though, I would always just apply if you're on the fence, and then you have that opportunity to reject the offer of admission and then reapply the following year instead of not having the opportunity because you didn't apply. So yeah.
I'd also add, if you are considering doing a gap year, consider what you're going to do with that time. Don't just sit at home twiddling your thumbs. Either get a job or volunteer or a combination of the two, and try to make good use of your time because it's valuable.
Thanks. While we have you here, I'm seeing another question in the Q&A that's asking, are there any tips to help someone choose their major?
Yes, absolutely. So I would probably just narrow it down to what faculty you'd be most interested in. So if that's going to be science versus social science, arts versus business, once you have a general idea of your faculty, it will become super easy to focus on a minor. Now, if you have two opposing faculties that you're interested in, remember you can also apply to multiple programs per university. So for example, I applied to 3 programs at the University of Ottawa, and then I didn't choose until probably May was when I accepted one offer. So you can apply to multiple programs even if they're in opposing faculties. But the first step I would suggest is to really focus in on what faculty you want, and then from there look at the specific programs that each faculty offers.
And most schools also have the option of doing like a major and a minor, where you can have 2 very different progressions of study, or sometimes a medial where you do 50% of your courses in business and 50 in science, for example. So there's lots of unique options when you're looking at different programs.
Another question from the crowd was, do universities look at the amount of volunteer hours you do?
That's going to depend on what university you're applying to and what program you're applying to. Generally speaking, though, no. I know I was surprised at that when I was applying to universities, that most universities and most programs, even if you're applying to a specialized programs, will only look at your grades that are uploaded to OUAC. I know there are some universities like Queen's who have a more holistic application, and a lot of universities will also give you the opportunity to describe your volunteer hours and your extracurriculars. However, the majority of your application is going to be solely based on your grades. Having said that, though, your volunteer hours and your extracurriculars are incredibly valuable for other things, such as getting involved on campus, finding a job, or applying to scholarships as well. So while your grades are important, your extracurriculars and volunteer hours are equally as important, even if they're not included in your application to the university and your program that you're interested in.
Thank you. I'm also seeing another question asking, although 40 hours are mandatory, how many hours would you recommend completing?
My recommendation, other panelists might want to answer as well. As many as you're able to take on, obviously during COVID, there's some restrictions to that, but the more involved you can get, the better it will be for scholarship purposes. But I would also say to make sure that you're doing things that you're passionate about. Don't just take on volunteer work to resume build. They'll see through that if that's what you're doing. So make sure you're doing things for the right reasons, but the more time you're able to spend volunteering, the better. And it's just great to be able to give back to your community.
I can chime in on that as well, for sure. I think that one of the things that often comes up is this idea of, with the 40 hours, is the 40 hours enough? Should it be 3 times that if you really want to make an impression? What it comes down to is sometimes quality over quantity too. And I think that's a great point that Lauren just made about not just doing it for the sake of resume building, but making sure you have a connection to that volunteerism that you're doing. So if you've done your 40 hours toward the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, but they've been really meaningful opportunities that you've partaken in, then that's great. And that really will help to build your character and build your resume all at once. So it definitely is about the quality, for sure.
Another question I see in the Q&A is, what is it? Just a second. I'm just finding it. Sorry. What are the key points to making a good resume?
Okay, I'd seen that before, so hope it's okay if I just kind of jump in and take the lead here. Your resume is definitely, it's going to change based on the job you're applying for. So if you're utilizing your resume for an entry-level job, some of the key points that you're going to want to include will be that volunteer experience you have, maybe some extracurriculars from school, anything like that, and you want to highlight that on your resume. A good resume is going to have correct information, so your right address, email, phone number, and then up-to-date information. If you're using a resume, I know you guys have talked a lot about post-secondary. If you're using a resume for a post-secondary co-op or maybe an internship, I always say you'll put like a little professional profile or highlights of qualifications at the top, and then you'll include your education experience and then any relevant things that you may have done that would align with that co-op or the internship. I hope that kind of answers the question. You definitely have to kind of gear it towards the job. Okay, so your entry-level job, maybe in fast food, is going to be a bit different resume than your co-op position at a university or a college level. Okay, I know personally in co-op for myself in university, the resume was not necessary. I had to provide what's called a curriculum vitae, which is a CV, and that's a bit different. So that includes everything you've done. So that's a holistic approach to all things that you've done. So that might be something that you're asked, but for those entry-level positions, you really just want to highlight on your resume the skills you have, things that you've done in the past and in the present. That really helps. Sue, I don't know if you want to add anything, just what makes your resume stand out.
No, it was just like you had mentioned, the volunteer working, maybe you cut grass, maybe you babysat, so things like that. Email, again, make sure it's professional email address. Set one just for job searching. It's so important. Again, those are first impressions that employers get of you.
Yeah, an email for job searching. And then if you are doing these applications, like there's been quite a few questions about university and post-secondary, use that email for that too. So you have two, you can get all your communications from your post-secondary institution through that email, and then you have it for job searching as well, and it just becomes a professional option for you. Yeah. So that's a great point.
No pictures too. I think someone asked about pictures before. You don't want to put your own picture on there unless you're going for a modeling job, right? Then obviously then you would have to have that on there, but you don't have to put a picture.
People had asked advice about saving on students. I saw that in the Q&A as well. Is it okay if I speak to that a bit? Sloane or Vanessa, I don't know if that matters. Sure. I had answered it because it was about paychecks. I'm not sure if this is corresponding the same line. 15 to 20% in like a part-time job as a student would be a recommended savings. However, it's very situational. So what are you saving for? What do you need the money for currently? You obviously don't want to not have enough money for yourself, right? So you really have to sit down, and what you would do is call the budget. Sue, if you connect with Sue and I, we have student budgeting resources we can send back to you. So when you write down things you spend your money on during the month, how much you're taking in during the month, what are you saving for? I know personally, in high school, I was able to save, and post-secondary is a bit trickier if you have different expenses, right? So you kind of have to use that budget.
Watch the debit card, right? Because everybody just pays by debit card now, and you don't realize that's money coming out of your account, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I find personally, like, I always give the tip. Cash is great because you know what you're spending, you see it in front of you. It has more value than using a card, and that does help a bit. Yeah. Are there any other? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to piggyback you for saving as a student. Some of the biggest things that I found as well going to university was that a lot of things that you think are mandatory to purchase might not necessarily be. So if you're in your first year, don't go and buy all the textbooks right away. Don't buy them new. There's often huge Facebook group chats that have thousands of students in them. I've bought one textbook new, and it was because I couldn't find it. And all the other ones that I've purchased that were used or either free online are $30 or less compared to the $200 value. So that's something to keep in mind. And another thing is try not to eat out. When you go to university, you'll be tempted so much to just eat out because you don't want to cook food for yourself. But if you can make that an enjoyable experience, so whether it be cooking with your roommates or cooking something new, then it will be a lot easier for you. And then finally, a lot of schools, post-secondary institutions will have work-study programs where you'll actually be able to work for the university. For example, I'm a part of the work-study program. A lot of my roommates are as well. So I'm a student ambassador, and one of my other roommates works for the bookstore. Another one works in Career Development Center. So what you can do is you're actually working for the university, and that's so great because they'll make sure that your academics are a priority. You're only working a set number of hours that are appropriate for students, but then you'll still get that income that you can spend, and you can be comfortable with spending money if you need it, or you can also save, and then it will also improve your resume. So it's like a win-win-win.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good, those are really good points, yeah, for saving, especially during school. I think writing a budget out, like physically writing it, is helpful. I'm not sure if you guys do that, but that is something that I've always thought helped a lot. I still do that. And that helps, yeah.
Another question we have is, when applying for jobs, is it appropriate to send a follow-up email to see the status of your application?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't send it immediately after you apply for the job because you don't want to bombard the employer with a ton of requests and comments, whatever, right? Because they're getting probably thousands of applications online coming through. Internet's super accessible these days. I would say maybe in a week or two after you send it in, you can send a quick follow-up email or a letter and ask about the status of your application.
Great, thank you. And for NPSN, do you have any key things that you would recommend for scholarships and for higher chances?
It depends on the scholarship itself, so pay attention to the criteria. Often it's a combination of your academics, your grades, a reference letter often, or multiple reference letters, extracurriculars, community involvement. So I guess it's just trying to make yourself as strong of a candidate as you can be holistically. But there are some scholarships that have very specific criteria that you may be one of 5 people who meet them. So sometimes it's great to find niche scholarships. Maybe your parents' employers have a scholarship specific to their company that you could look into. And there are also a ton of local scholarships, or if it's a financial need situation. So it's really just exploring as many as you can and seeing which ones you best meet the criteria, and trying to make sure that you're a well-rounded person.
I would also recommend being super thoughtful and intentional in your application. So don't just fill out the boxes that need to be filled out. Make sure you're really thinking through everything. what aspects about yourself do you want to highlight? Why do you want to highlight them? Why do you think that would appeal to the scholarship committee that's going to be reviewing your application? So while it's super useful to have definitely like your resume at hand, but make sure you're picking the things that are really going to contribute to whatever scholarship that you're applying for, and that you're thoughtful and intentional with everything you're putting down on that paper that's going to make you look like the best candidate that applied to the scholarship.
Thank you. Another question that I'm seeing is it ever possible to put too much information on a resume?
Yes, it is possible. You definitely, so what we typically say, this would be something I would hopefully should be able to show an example of right now. So I'm happy to follow up with whoever asked that after. You want to use short, concise, action-formed bullet points that have a result underneath each job. So you would say that you mopped the floor to maintain health and safety standards. That shows what you did, why you did it, and the contribution. Writing big paragraphs and lots of sentences after your jobs or volunteer experiences is a bit too much. Anything that's over 10 years old, you don't put on your resume. So if you left a job 10 years ago, that wouldn't go on your resume anymore. It's no longer relevant. You definitely just want to watch the way you're saying things in your bullet points, that you're not going on and on with sentences. You just want to make sure that you're doing that properly.
And that it's relevant too, right? Maybe you enjoy baking and you're wanting to apply to, you know, a cake place or bakery that has, that you're wanting to do. So again, if you've done some, you know, you've done that on the side, and for some volunteering, again, you're going to put that on, right? Walking your dog, that's not really, you know, something you should be putting on, right? It's not relevant. So things like that.
Yeah, your hobbies are something you exclude for sure on your resume after you do get some experience. Unless it's really job related, and like Sue said, baking, maybe you're in some sort of a baking type of a hobby club, you might include that then. Yeah, so that is possible.
Yeah, sorry, Farah. Interest in activities, not kind of hobbies anymore, right? So updating it and having it relevant.
I say usually for a high school level, depending on the reasoning to having 2 pages, you typically would want to stick to a 1-page resume. You can definitely expand the margins and make sure it all fits. That would typically be good for an entry-level job. And then, like I said, there is something called a CV that you can use later on that would include all of your great accomplishments and volunteering.
Thank you. Another question, is it important to include awards and accomplishments in a resume?
Yes, that's a really great question, and it would be for sure. You can include that at the end of the resume, definitely, and include if you win things with school, or maybe you've won a club award or something through an organization you're affiliated with outside of school. That's a great idea, and then that's something really great to actually bring it up at your interview too.
Yeah, especially honor rolls, right?
Anything that can set you apart from a candidate who comes in is something you would want to put on the resume.
Another thing about resumes, someone's asking, how can you earn more how can you get more references on your resume?
Okay, that's a good question. So your references are actually a separate sheet off your resume. So at the bottom of your resume, you always put references available upon request. So I know that we had a lot of different conversations about volunteering, but asking somebody who you volunteer for to be a reference with you is a great way to begin networking. So that's why Sue and I and everybody on who has come on and talked about volunteering has stressed that you pick an experience that is meaningful to you. You'll likely then be able to connect really well with the employer and hopefully get either a reference letter or a reference out of that. Team coaches can be a reference for you too, starting out. So a sport club coach, maybe you're playing a musical instrument, they could be a reference for you. Anybody who can speak to your diligence, your work ethic, that sort of thing.
Teachers.
Teachers are good at first.
You know, maybe you babysat for somebody and didn't get paid. Again, you know, or you got paid, they're a good resource to have as a reference.
Mhm.
Maybe you cut lawns for people. Again, those are good for references. You want to typically have 3 to 5 on the sheet to bring with you to an interview. And you're always going to bring that sheet with you to an interview when you go.
Yeah, you don't want to give them out ahead of time because say you're applying to 20 jobs in one day, your references don't have time to be getting all those calls and it's private information. So you just give them when you're asked for it. That's not something that's mandatory right ahead of time. Community.
Great. Is a resume summary necessary? And as a high school student, what do we write for education?
Okay, so you mean a summary that you would have at the top of the resume? Is that what you mean? Like a professional summary?
I believe so.
Okay, so typically we use some bullet points there called the highlights of qualifications. Again, Sue and I can even email out a resource to help you with that creation piece and give some liaising there. So that would just show some things that you've done that are related to the job. So it's not necessary to have that big long summary at the top. And what was the other part of that question?
And as a high school student, what do we write for education?
You write that you're in high school, working towards the or what grade, or just put working towards completion of OSSD, which is your grade 12. You put the years and then the city of the high school.
Another question was, what are some good investment opportunities for students?
I don't know how to answer that.
I don't either. No,
sorry.
Talk to a financial planner. I don't know.
What types of jobs are good for volunteer hours is a question right now. So you're thinking of employers who would take on a volunteer? There's a lot of different employers, if that is the question, that accept volunteers. Goodwill accepts volunteer applications. Habitat for Humanity has a forum online you can go through and fill in, and then they accept volunteers through that portal. Salvation Armies accept volunteers, food banks, soup kitchens. So do you have any others that you can think of?
I don't know. It was a Cody that presented on volunteering. Maybe he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, I sort of hate to keep pushing toward the database, but the database has all of those organizations that you just mentioned, along with countless others. So any of their opportunities, and the nice thing about that is that the database will also show what is current versus what is no longer current. So sometimes organizations have volunteer roles that they have available, and then they're filled and they are at capacity for that volunteer role, so they will take that down. So it's a good way to be able to sort of monitor what's available now. And again, you're also able to tailor to things that are relevant to students as well. So things that are available for after school hours, things that are you're eligible for given your age of being between 14 and 18 years old, things like that.
Yeah, we direct students to use that resource quite a bit as well. So that's a great platform to tap into to help you discover what would work best for you and your needs and what you're looking for.
We've gotten a really interesting question in. As an employer, what are some key adjectives that separate applicants on a resume?
Key adjectives? So that one, there's not really a standard set of adjectives I could set out as far as that goes. You really want to look at the job posting to where you're applying for and then model your resume towards that. So look and see what they want, that you maybe have some transferable skills, and then create your adjectives and your action words based on that. Sue, does that?
Yeah, you know what I could add on that? Sorry, Farah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thinking about it, if you're an employer and you're looking for a resume and it says served customers, right? Say you have 3 resumes in front of you. First one says served customers. The second one says served customers with a smile. And the third resume says served customers with a smile, which resulted in repeat business. Which one do you think the employer is going to like? Probably the third one, right? Because it's what you did, how you did it, and what the outcome was. So when Farah had talked about in the resume, those, descriptions under your work experience, that's what you want to add, and that will stand out to an employer, so they'll know what you did, how you did it, and what the outcome was. If that helps, makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect. And a cover letter, if you ever get to that point, is a really great way to describe things that you've done and set yourself out from other people. So that's a great option as well in the future.
Cover letter,
Thank
absolutely,
you.
every time you apply. Right.
And maybe just one last question. What is the difference between a grant, scholarship, and bursary?
So scholarships, grants, and bursaries are all types of financial assistance that you don't have to pay back. Generally speaking, though, scholarships are going to be based more on merit. So that will be your accomplishments, your volunteer hours, where you've worked, stuff like that. And then grants and bursaries are usually going to take into consideration more financial need and other external factors aside from merit or including both, but it's all kind of intersectional. So it's going to depend on the specific grant, scholarship, or bursary that you are looking into.
Thank you. And I think that concludes our panelist discussion. So we hope that everyone had a great time and learned something new today.
Yes, and an event like this is only possible with the support of many. We would like to give a special thank you to all of you volunteering your time and giving back.
In regards to the community service hours, students can earn up to 3 community involvement hours for today's virtual youth forum. If you're a student from the DSBN, please use this information when adding hours to our Republic on D2L. So list the organization as the District School Board of Niagara, Susan Santesso as the supervisor as stated here, and her email susan.santesso@dsbn.org under the supervisor email.
We would like to thank all of our contributors that helped make this day a success. If you are a student at the NCDSB, your hours will be sent directly to your school. You may check with your guidance department to ensure that the hours have been submitted. Please give your school a couple days before checking. Students will receive a follow-up email tomorrow that will include this information.
Again, a big thank you to our panelists and supporters from today. And if we move to the next slide, we'll find ourselves at the end of the 2020 Virtual Youth Forum. Your volunteer hours will be provided by your school board representative. And on behalf of the entire MYAC team, I'd like to thank everyone for making this event such a success. We hope you enjoyed an evening of productive input and discussion and had the opportunity to meet new people and that tonight was a positive experience. Thank you.